Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Borough of Haddonfield Board of Commissioners Business Meeting. It is Monday, April 28th. It's just after 7:36 p.m. And I would like to call the meeting to order. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of the meeting has been sent to the registrant, posted on the Borough website, Borough social media, and posted on the bulletin board downstairs in Borough Hall. It's also being held in person. All of you can see that, as well as via Zoom. And I just want to thank Chief Cutler and Commissioner Seidel because they just troubleshot what was going to be a very exciting unveiling of our brand new system that we have patiently been awaiting for AV for our hybrid meetings. But as always, technology sometimes fails, so we are working with the old Zoom system. So thank you all for your patience while we did that, and thank you to Commissioner Seidel and Chief Cutler. With that, could we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Okay, yeah, whenever you're ready to call roll.
Commissioner Troy,
Present.
Commissioner Seidel,
Present.
Commissioner Bianco Besant.
Present. Okay, with that, we have next up item C, waive the reading minutes and approve the minutes. These are for commissioner meetings in 2024 and 25, or sorry, 2024 commissioner meetings, 2025 commissioner meetings, work sessions of 2024, and closed sessions from April of 24 through April of 25. I am going to ask to break out February 10th, Deanna, because I have to abstain from that one because it was not present. And Commissioner Seidel will need to abstain from the 24 meetings through December. Thank you. Through November 20. Okay. Okay, with that, Commissioner, could I have a motion for, yeah, how do you want to do it? Do you want me to do it separately?
I prefer not that.
Okay, all right.
So can I do it by different types?
Okay, Commissioners, could I have a motion to approve the commissioner meetings of October 7th, November 28th, December 16th, January 27th, and March 24th, and February 10th?
So moved. Second.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel.
In favor with my abstentions before November 28th.
Yes, sir. And Commissioner Bianco Besant.
In favor, with the exception of February 10th, 2025. Okay, next we have the work sessions for August 12th, 2024, September 9th, 2024, October 7th, 2024, November 12th, 2024, December 9th, 2024. May I have a motion?
So moved. I'll second.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Besant.
In favor.
Oh, my abstentions through December 9th.
Okay, next we have the closed meetings, April 22nd, June 3rd, June 24th, July 8th, July 22nd, August 26th, September 9th, September 23rd, October 7th, November 25th, December 9th, December 16th, January 6th, February 3rd, February 10th, all abstained, March 10th, and April 7th. May I have a motion?
I'll make the motion. Second.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel.
In favor, abstain.
With the appropriate.
Abstention before December 9th.
Will do, and Commissioner Bianco Besant.
In favor with the extension of February 10th, 2025. Okay, next we have item D on the agenda, and this is a really important and special authorization of recognition recognizing the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism. There are several communities nearby that have elected to, please do this as well, and I want to thank the inspector, is he here? Oh, David, I'm sorry, you carried out this also, David, if you would just stand for a minute and I just, recount, welcome to stand at the podium, just, if you'd like to say the importance of this and your, coming to the borough.
Thank you so much, Mayor Young, the legislative commissioners, the Jewish community, Jewish Community Relations Council. We're just so grateful for you standing up against, standing up against anti-Semitism, supporting the Jewish community. It's a tough time for us. To stand with us means everything. So I just want to thank you and we're on to say, can't thank you enough. Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to note that this resolution was also very important to our human relations division. We spent the last few years working really hard. So I was just saying, this resolution, David approached us, talking about the importance of this resolution in a community like ours where the Jewish community often goes unrecognized, or is not given the same semblance of, appearance with the community as a majority, or otherwise recognized. We still struggle sometimes with recognizing the high holy days and other events. We thought it was really important to recognize the faith community and the culture of the Jewish people here in Haddonfield and adopt this definition. So I thank everyone for their support of that, and mostly again, thank you, David, for bringing it forward to us. With that, could I have a motion to authorize, resolution 2025-428-47?
I'll make the motion. Second.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Busse.
Oh, yes, I was going to, hopefully also do that with Jewish American Heritage Month. Are you both able to stay for Jewish American Heritage Proclamation? Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm actually going to do something that is not on the agenda right now, and that is walk on a recognition and celebration of women in the borough of Haddonfield. And I'm going to get up to do that from the podium, and there's a reason we have this different setup tonight in addition to the UAB. And so I would just like to recognize those in attendance this evening who are here to also recognize the women in Haddonfield, and that's Commissioner Ginny Betteridge. Second woman and now clerk Pamela Lampett. And our surrogate Michelle Jessica Snyder. Maybe I will ask the three of you to step up with Joanna and Michael to help us. Okay, this microphone works. Okay. So the reason I chose to do this tonight and recognize a number of women in the community is because for those of you who may not realize, this is likely my last meeting as the mayor of the borough. And it's a really bittersweet moment for me. I'm gonna get pretty emotional. When I first ran for office, I was the mom of a toddler, and I was really struggling with this part. And I wasn't being diagnosed properly, and I wasn't getting proper care. And I wanted to find an outlet for giving back. And I actually called Assemblywoman Linda's office, and I asked her to meet with me because I felt really lost. And I had heard really nice things about her. She did not know me from a hole in the wall. I knew her from Philadelphia, in 2015 to welcome our son Luca here in Haddonfield. Opened a business here, my husband opened a business here, we loved it. And I didn't yet have someone in the school system, and I knew my mom was a PTA president. And I thought, I can't possibly wait 5 years. I need to do something now. And thankfully, Jack Pardee, our former mayor who's here, recruited me as he does to so many other people who moved to the borough. He said, join the Lions, join the Celebrations Association, and consider joining the board. For the next time. And Pam was gracious enough and kind enough, as a mom herself, as a working woman, University of Pennsylvania, also being a legislator, to take time to meet with me, not anywhere else but in my town, in Haddonfield. And we sat at the coffee shop, sat right at Starbucks on the corner, and we talked for, I think, over an hour. And it was such an honor for me when she swore me in 2021. I still have that picture framed in my office because she said to me, why would you wait? You don't need to do PTA, run for office, but start small. Like, don't overburden yourself, don't kill yourself. You have a little one, you have a career, I have law practice, and so much going on. And I was joining Jack's organization, as I call them. And so I started small, and that was joining the zoning board. And I remember getting passed over on planning board because I was told by someone at the time that I was a woman and I couldn't stand up to one of the male planning board members. And if you know me, many of you in this room know me well, that just motivated me even more. So I ran. But during that time, Pam's support and the support of Pat Jones, who was an assemblywoman that lives here in town, and she was an assemblywoman at Barrington 5th District, and the support of Commissioner Bedridge, who I met in my 20s, she was the mayor of Haddonfield. And we shared a CFO. And anyone who goes to your places that you've told them about that committee. At this point, that's when I moved to town. Those women propelled me to have confidence. And instead of asking, am I good enough? Can I, should I, would I? They gave me the confidence and the courage and the support and a network in a place that I was new. And so I really have to just applaud Pam for all of her support. I'm not calling her a here. If everyone could just join me, because I would be here today. My origin story, as my son would say, if you're a comic book fan, is thank you to Pam, first and foremost. In 2019, I was on the zoning board. I was on Jack's words, and someone behaved badly. And as the mom, I was embarrassed, I was frustrated. I was determined that the representation here would look like me and sound like me and be kind to people and respectful and treat others the way I wanted to be treated. That's the example I wanted to set for my son. That's the example I try to leave the police department, the fire department, and public affairs is that Haddonfield is a safe and welcoming and tolerant and beautiful place today, as much or if not more so than it was in 1713. So I gathered with a group of women in 2019 at Paper Books. And this may be TMI. You know me again, it is what it is. I was actually recovering from surgery that I needed after the birth of my son. I had waited years to see, am I gonna have more kids? Am I gonna have a future of more children? And my decision ultimately had to be no. And anyone who's a woman who's considered having children or struggled having children or had to face that reality also knows that impacts everything you do. And it still impacts me to this day. And those women at Inkwood Books, I came in with my resume, I came in with my of my degrees and all the things I thought and hoped and dreamed and talking about being the mom of a little boy. And they looked at me like I was crazy, not because they weren't being supportive, but because they were just the opposite. They said, you absolutely should run. So the story of my candidacy, the story of my sitting up here, the story of why we're here tonight, which I promise to get to the end very soon, is not of partisanship, it's not of politics, it's of people. And it is of women. And of course I'm gonna thank my husband, of course I'm gonna thank my son, who I love very much, and my parents. But these women actually sat around a bookstore with me, which is so much more than a bookstore, it's a community center. And they had the faith and the confidence and the fortitude. And even as some of us were meeting for the very first time, they didn't even look at my resume. We had conversations and we connected. And if it was not for those women, again, I would not be here. So when my son and I talk about origin stories, whether it's DC, Marvel, I don't know if we have any competitive fans here, it's Greek mythology, whatever it is, I always talk to him about the origin of who we are, and where we are, and why we're here. And that leads me to tonight. Because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for so many of the women in this room. And some of you were in that room, and you didn't know that I've been admiring you from afar for 5.5 years. Some of you I only met last year, that I paid attention, that's what I promised I would do, and I followed your lead. Because you all, if you're here being recognized, you lead by example. And it is an honor for me, in telling my story, to say that this is not the end, this is not something I should cry over. This is something I should be really excited about, happy and proud to share with all of you, because you are the reason Haddonfield is great. It's not any one of us, it's not me, it's all of you. And the women sitting here tonight can't get in the men's grill at Tavistock, and they can't sit in the 65 Club unless they're a guest speaker. And they couldn't join the Lions Club, which I'm a member, until, I don't know, Jackie 80s. So there are still places we can't get in, there are still seats we don't get to hold. And all of us here tonight, I ask you, not just to break the glass ceilings, but to hold out a chair for someone else. And the reason we're doing this tonight is not just because it's my last meeting, it's also because of another woman in my life. I intended to do this in March, in keeping with Women's History Month. But my mother-in-law, who's a woman who I met at 18 years old, who's been in my life for that, at my age, almost 35 years, we lost her in March. She was diagnosed with a very rare form of advanced cancer in January, just before her 70th birthday. And so I spent the duration of February and March helping to care for her. And our police force and our EMTs, I'm looking at Anne, could not have been more kind. Because there were times we had to call for her. And the compassion and the dedication of our men and women in blue is something I've always known, and I'm fiercely protective of them. And I love them with all my heart, and I'm fiercely protective of them. But it was in these last 2 months that we really saw and felt as a family. When my mother-in-law, who lives here in Haddonfield until just last week, was suffering, they were, and she formed my hero here, yes. So that's a shout out 100% to our fire department, our EMS, EMTs, firefighters, and police for the compassion and the dedication they share. And with that, I will now sum up. Thank you all for your attention. Thank you for allowing me to serve. Thank you for putting me in a position to represent you, to advocate for you, to attempt leadership, to try to smile when things are difficult and when technical failures happen, to make our AP work. Thank you for inviting me to the Girl Scout troop meetings. Thank you for inviting me to the classrooms. And it's now time to honor the women who I think are so special in our community. And with that, I would ask Commissioner Betteridge and Pam and Michelle to step up. They'll also be presenting certificates for Kennedy County on behalf of recognition for community impact. Okay. The first woman we are honoring today is Susan Balti. Is Susan here? Okay. So, no, you're perfect. So before I present this to Susan, so this is just a plaque I made for each woman, and it says that you're being honored for your selfless commitment to community service in the borough and beyond. And it is my honor to give this to each woman who will be honored tonight I'm gonna just say a quick word about everyone here, what we do for before in the morning, thank you so much. Susan, and I were on the Zoom board together, and we were on the Democratic Committee together, and she lights up the celebrations fundraising table, even though she's not a formal member. And, importantly, she is my designee on the planning board. And if you ever want to meet a woman who does her homework and shows up when she says she's gonna show up, that is Susan Baltic. So, and she's a Rotary member, she does their newsletter, and she's on host, that really outdoor sculpture truck. And she helped start the farmer's market, and that, I mean, there's so much more I can say, but this is, so it is. Next, we have Julie Bedingfield. Okay, let's give Julie a round of applause. But deserving so much of this honor. Next, we have Sarah Blackbird. Is Sarah? If that's fair to say. When COVID hit, it was like the start of my term as a commissioner, and I was put in charge of public safety, and I was put in charge of public affairs, and we had no budget for public affairs and no staff for public affairs. So I would spend like 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. every morning doing my borough work. And I noticed there was this civilian woman who didn't get paid, wasn't on a volunteer roster as an official volunteer of any sort, but she was putting together Haddonfield Helps or Haddonfield for Good. Haddonfield for Good. And she was making t-shirts and selling them and collaborating with small business owners to directly benefit our small business community. And she does so much more. She's a small business owner. And since COVID, she's grown Sugar Street Wellness, her massage studio. So after this, I'm gonna be stressed and I'm gonna go for a massage. But she also, at every chance she gets, if you look on social media, Sarah is a bright light. She is not the echo chamber of terrible people saying mean, nasty things. She is kindness personified, and she is so generous with telling people where to go and how to support our downtown businesses. So Sarah, it's my great honor to give this to you also. Next, is Tony here? Okay. Now to afterwards, ladies, but the picture, we will attempt that, I promise. Tony is such an amazing person. She doesn't know I like her this much. But I also was my liaison of the Haddonfield Preservation Commission, which is one of our boards of commissions. And the work they do often gets ignored or gets like the thumbs down, because what they're asking people to do is be accountable. They're asking you to not only embrace but celebrate the history of the beautiful architecture and character of this town. And that alone is so admirable. But Tony also walks around town all the time, and she can tell you things very kindly and proactively. She doesn't come at you to lambaste you or criticize or mock any of us up here. She is the first one to say, like, I noticed this issue and maybe I can help with it. And she has the really challenging task every month of balancing the concerns and the realities of this balancing act of how do we preserve, but how do we not put too much of a burden on people? And in this economy, when things cost more and it's a challenge to pay for the windows that are historic or get the roof that meets the standard, she's trying to do this with grace and compassion and humor, and she bakes really delicious food. Thank you, thank you. Okay, next up we have Christina Bozard. Is she on Zoom? Hi, Christina. Okay. So I'm just gonna, again, these women do so much in our town. They very rarely get any positive recognition. They don't do it with the accolades, but that's all the more reason for us tonight. So Christina makes the point, even when she is as far as California or down visiting family members, she tries to sign on to our meetings, which I really appreciate. But more importantly, she's working on two boards that overlap as a volunteer. In addition to being a Tatum Tiger mom, in addition to being a Haddonfield lifer and a Rutgers grad, she also, while working full-time, she volunteers for the Haddonfield Housing Agency and the Haddonfield Human Relations Commission, two agencies that are vitally important in 2025. And the work she does is to combat racism and discrimination, is to ensure that there is fair and safe housing, and it is so much focused on, again, creating a welcoming, safe, and kind borough, and also teaching our kids how to model that behavior. And I only met Christina in 2019, and I don't know what I would do without her, because if you've ever been to some of the rental properties we are trying to rehab, Christina would give up her Christmas break while she was off and bring her daughter and help shovel snow if Public Works or a contractor couldn't get out there. She would wait for plumbers in the freezing cold when there was a pipe that was burst. And that's really, to me, like, amazing for a volunteer to do. So I want to applaud Christina and thank you, Christina. We will give you your. Then, is Jen Colella here? Jen? Okay, so I didn't know Jen was the same person at first. But Jen is an incredible artist. And not only is she so talented in artistry and bringing that to our community via Markham Arts, where she teaches and she serves the community, she also goes above and beyond to serve in Camden, where she works with, I saw firsthand the work she does with our youth at Lucy Outreach in Camden. And I'm just in awe. She's always smiling like this, and I don't want to embarrass you, but it has been a joy from the time I met Jen till seeing her up here. And she's someone, when my son has done the part-time camp, I've always like, did you see this Jen? And so I just want to give her just amazing kudos, because I think being an artist is something that is often not valued in and of itself. And then to give back while doing that and bringing beauty and help and giving back is so valuable. So thank you. Corey Conley here. Okay. Leona, David. So Leona and I met years ago when I actually worked in the lighting industry. For those of you who know Anthony, my husband, we have a video production studio here in town, and he does commercial film and video now, but he got his start doing wedding videography. And he did it as a side hustle to pay for my law school because I had to work while in school. And Leona created this charitable organization, which is called Forget Me Not Flowers. And what they do is incredible. They actually work with brides and those throwing parties to take the gently used florals that have sat looking beautiful on these big banquet tables all evening, and she collects, if anyone has vases that you want to donate, she collects them. And then she assembles groups of volunteers who put the flower centerpieces back together, and they deliver them to hospitals, senior centers, and hospice facilities. So she deserves a tremendous amount of applause, and you can find her at the Wellness Festival on Mother's Day weekend on May 10th. She is one of our most popular vendors because she gets to relax and give back at the same time by crafting florals for those who really need a break. So. We have Ginny DeLong. I know I saw it. All right. So Ginny, I can thank Jack Turkey for my introduction to Ginny, because Ginny is a member of Celebration. She is a member of the Fortnite Committee. She is a member of Rotary. She is a social worker who really serves populations, children especially, who need it, who need care and attention and advocacy. That's her day job. But she also tirelessly volunteers. And when I have my community service calls, which I'll talk about later tonight, if anyone's still left, Ginny got on board. And Ginny, like Susan Malte, who I have such admiration for, we sometimes don't agree on things, right? We're working with organizations, we're trying to source volunteers, we're trying to raise money. Things get very tense, it's groups of people, it's history versus new, it's, all of these thoughts and ideas. Jack always wants the way it was, right? And that brings me. And then I look to Ginny, and she's oftentimes the buffer. But I really have to give Ginny so much credit because again, she did selflessly do this now. She has for decades. She also served on the Board of Education, and she knows what it is to really have mud slung at her. And she was married to a tremendous man, Bill. And like Susan, she doesn't have her husband with her anymore. And I think she is a treasure. And I'm just really grateful that I got to know Ginny. And even when I'm not there, I will still get to disagree with her or have her buffer my disagreements with Jack in the organization. Because she's just always cheerful and she walks around like this. And when I was first elected, she didn't say anything. There's a lot of people that have been around Haddonfield and knew better and do better, and they like to tell me that. And Marie was always welcoming. Again, like it didn't matter if like there were issues that she knew I was working through or vice versa. And she represents the Haddonfield daily with such grace and such confidence. It is a joy when you walk into a room and Marie has planned the event. Everything is nailed down to a T. And Marie is someone who will make you feel welcome. Like again, she just lights up the room for me. So whenever I see Marie, whatever my mood is, however I'm feeling, or whatever negativity is in the world, Marie is a bright light, and we are really lucky to have her at the helm with the fortnightly and hosting fabulous events and keeping that building and that heritage alive. So thank you, Marie. With a smile, but she is behind the Haddonfield annual spelling bee. And she does a phenomenal job for her fifth graders getting that national spelling bee contest in the state. And she makes the best floral pins and corsage. Oh, yes. Jen below. We love running into the Kings Road. So I was gonna say, Tom works there, we're not just running into each other randomly. But Jenna is another bright light, and she is someone who I only met a few years ago. And she invited me to speak to her Girl Scout troop. She has one child like I do, and sometimes that can feel like you're on an island, and sometimes in a town where people are driving their giant SUVs with 3 and 4 children, you feel a little out of place. And being a working mom who's always trying to give back and role model, that can also be a tough place to find yourself when you're having struggles or you're going through anything. And in meeting Jenna and observing her with her class, with Girl Scouts, and just knowing the work she does in healthcare to take care of people, I felt she is just more than deserving of this award because she also represents a generation of women who have not yet or may not be given a seat at the table for Citizen of the Year, or they may not do enough to get an award from the Civic Association. And that should never be the case. We should always be recognizing all of our residents, but especially the women who for generations were denied recognition or even a vote or a seat at the table. And so I just want to thank Jenna for giving that to our girls, and embracing children, in her Girl Scout troop who are also finding themselves and need the support of a strong woman who stands up for them every day. And next up, we have Kim Hall. Kim and I actually met here in Haddonfield almost 10 years ago. We were like 8 months pregnant, and we were at prenatal yoga. And we have been fast friends ever since, and our little boys are the best of friends. So I should have heard her for just taking my child on many occasions when I'm here doing the work of being there. But in reality, I'm giving her this recognition because she herself came from Pennsylvania. She and her husband settled here to raise their son. They have 2 beautiful boys, and she's a Tatum Tiger mom. But Kim is the person who shows up when you have a job like the partnership for Haddonfield and Andrea because of the vice chair. She knows it is so hard to get people, new people, to feel welcome, involved, and committed to volunteering. And Kim will never hesitate. And it's because of her that last year, 4th of July, when we needed to step up a bit more and help more with the amusements, and Kim was on there. She had 2 boys of her own. She could have gone out of town. She could have been, sorry, I'm hands off, I'm with my family today. She wasn't. She stepped up, and she was one of the only volunteers that Michael and I were able to rely on today, along with her husband. And that meant we had to find childcare. And so that's a big ask of someone in this economy and during this time, so that she could devote her time to making sure other people's kids were safe. She also is the reason that at the tree lighting, we are able to have a hot cocoa station, which is complimentary and sponsored by the bistro or sponsored by Haddon Culinary. The Kim is the volunteer that oversees the high school students and their service hours. And again, this was a new thing we wanted to do in collaboration with the Celebrations Association, the Borough, the partnership, and I couldn't have pulled it together if not for a volunteer like Kim. So I want to give her a huge round of applause and a big hug because she's one of my best friends and she's so deserving. And next we have Pamela Fisk. And I know Pamela's traveling, she's not able to be with us. Next we have Amy Cooper. I love her dress. Amy is also, again, all these women here are great lights, but Amy is a neighbor within very short walking distance, and her husband is really good to my dog. And, we often see each other, and we often have encounters that are totally by chance that really leave an impact on me. And I don't know if I've ever shared that with you specifically, but I'm sharing it publicly now. Amy is the president of our library. And so every day, in this climate in particular, she's working with challenging situations about library funding and banned books and what our kids and our adults should and could have access to. And when we have to call shop, because I'm the liaison of the library board as mayor, it often can be fraught with difficulty or challenges and, sourcing new volunteers and appointing people to books. Those are the kind of issues we have to work through. But during her tenure, the staff at the library lights up. We have developed such a partnership for Pride and for Juneteenth programming and just so much again that makes the heart and soul of Haddonfield bigger and brighter and more welcoming to all. And so I love being here with her, Amy, and I love working with you. And I know this is the library board, but our walks and our dogs will still. Okay, next we have Ellen Harrigan. I thought I saw her. Oh, there she is. I haven't really Haddonfield until very recently, but we have worked together. She is the executive director of the South Jersey Perinatal Cooperative. And you've heard me talk TMI about childbearing and child rearing. And the work that Helen does is so critically important, and it's accessible to women in our community who may not think they need it or may not want to take it away from other women, but they should access it, they do need it, they can have it, and it is not taking resources away from women in communities of color or in communities where socioeconomically they're not as advantaged or resource rich as we are. And I think all of us here in the work that we do at the county recognize that that is critically important to get out there. So tell all your friends if they're going through the postpartum period, Helen Turner. And the work that the perinatal cooperative does is so critically important to support breastfeeding moms, postpartum challenges. And they do everything from diaper drives to tampon drives. If you see me collecting tampons here, oftentimes they're going to Helen. And so I can get on the she is small but mighty, and she was my first introduction to the Jewish community in Haddonfield outside of Karen Elkins. And for that, I also felt it was really important to recognize you tonight because your presence, not only in supporting and featuring adults, but also being proud and being open and communicative about your culture, your heritage, and the life you have made. Again, your husband did so much for the community as a people community as a whole. She just will have a legacy that lasts beyond any of us. And if I can be half the woman Rosie is, and still reach up to the top of the menorah and look like it, I will have lived my best life. So, aside from our time, I don't even, I mean, she was, how many years post? How many years did you teach? 40 years of the Haddonfield educator. And, yeah. And next we have Heather. Kumar, is Heather here? Our administrator, that one of the goals when I took office was to help reinvigorate what Mayor Jack and Mayor Tish and others supported in the 90s, and that was the Haddonfield Human Relations Commission. During COVID, I felt we were really all isolated. We were very much becoming unkind at times, and there was a lot of mental health struggles that the police department knows, and the fire department, EMS knows. So I really struggled, and Sharon kept saying, which she knows she has to say to me all the time, baby steps, Holly, baby steps. It can't all happen at once. I'm not good at it. Heather was one of our long-term members, along with Ellen Stone, and she stayed the course. And I actually asked her if she would become the chair, and if she would be okay with pivoting to like this new 21st century model post-COVID that found like a renewed mission in serving the needs of our community. And she could have told me, people tell me all the time, you're talking about crazy. She did. She actually stepped up to the challenge. She invited new members, some of whom will get recognized tonight. And she really did the hard work of digging in She also has been a tireless advocate for our children in town with all needs, all abilities, and who are deserving, whether they are autistic, or they have Downs, or they have hearing or vision impairments, or like my son, we're neurodivergent. She really is a mom who advocates for all. So aside from her work on the Relations Commission, she's on the Special Education Parent Advisory Group. So that, actually on the board of okay, she's also on the board of NJ, so she does phenomenal work, and that is why I wanted to recognize Heather for all she's contributed, in her capacity as a resident, as HRC chair, and as mom to her three beautiful kids. Thank you. Next, we have Jessica Lucas. I have become friends, but we really met living back, and that's the best way to think. So Jessica is now the president of the Haddonfield Historical Society, which for a woman, I think is incredibly important to recognize. And she's not just a figurehead, she actually does the hard work, like so many of these women are digging in and trying to achieve new programming and new space uses, and so much that will really bring life to what we already know is a beautiful, wonderful town. But when I come to her with like a cultural tourism or heritage tourism idea, she does not shoo me away. Instead, we go to William Heritage and have a glass of wine, and we talk about what it is we do together. And her husband Andy has been incredibly involved in the Haddonfield skirmish, if you're familiar with that. And she, again, like a champ, shows up on June day to help in any way she can. And she is always willing to lend a hand and to support other women in town. And she is part of the generation that hopefully, you know, as colleagues and contemporaries, we are stepping up to show our children just what it needs to give back and continue that legacy of service. So this is really helpful. Okay, I think Jane Martin had to miss this evening. Okay, all right. Next I want to call up Kathy McGeehan. Met Kathy at the very important and upcoming Wear Orange events that we had in town. When before I was elected, it was the first peace march or peace protest I ever brought my son to. And in the picture, I also have her on my desk. And she gave me my first orange ribbon, actually, that I still wear. And it's kind of a picture of me in my office. Because I had it on me the night that I was born. And the work that Kathy does with Mom Demands Action, Moms Demand Action, is tireless and thankless, and it's so critically important. As a director of public safety, it means everything to me to talk about handling guns safely and having what it means to be a gun owner, if you care to carry arms, and what that looks like, and what it means to law enforcement, and importantly, how to talk to our kids about it, and how to talk about sensitive issues. So in recent months, we actually your police advisory commission, which she gladly did. Again, something she didn't need to do. She had enough on her plate with moms. And like a true champion, and many of the women here, I asked her to help Chief Cutler and I in planning an event, and she immediately jumped into action with Joanna, and they planned a domestic violence program, because one of Chief Cutler's and I goals since COVID was to reduce domestic violence as much as we could with the help of our partners in law enforcement and elsewhere. And so that meant bringing in specialists and counselors and having a safe and secure space where people can talk about this issue and feel comfortable. And I can't thank Kathy enough that in 6 months that she's been on this commission. She's already hosted the main event of Phoenix, and she's just, again, a bright light for students who wants to keep all of us safe. Next, we have Lauren McLean. I put this, to the section of the agenda, with Lauren has a little one that can't not start. And that's a real challenge for a mom trying to do that at bedtime. But Lauren and I met several years ago when we were trying to reestablish and invigorate Fall Festival. And we were running short of volunteers who could staff tables without running something or, without needing additional support. Lauren stepped up and she staffed the table as a mom to a very little one. And MJ, he was a newborn. And so like me, she was looking to give back. But she also really importantly created a safe space online that does not allow trolling, does not allow bullying, and it is representative of our Haddonfield community. And it's called Haddonfield for Good. And what she actually posts on there are informational pieces to promote what's happening in the borough. And she doesn't allow anonymous bullying. And she doesn't allow name calling, and she doesn't allow defamatory statements, which I myself have been the subject of for 5 years, as long as I've been in office, if not longer. And I really applaud her for that, as does our law enforcement. Because if you've ever seen what cyberbullying and cyber attacks can lead to in real life, I've been a victim of it myself, it can be terrifying. And it can make you physically unsafe. When we talk about how to feel safe, what that should extend through and to is online as well. And so I would recognize Lauren and her husband, Mike, and her son MJ, in his care, for just making time and space as a mom of a little one to say that our grown-ups can and should behave better too. So thank you. Okay, next we have Deb Curtin-Heimer. She has Deb. Met Deb through her husband Wayne, who is now the chair of our zoning board. I served with Wayne on zoning board, and then I learned about his amazing wife, and I thought she should be on that. And in all seriousness, I first met Deb at the first fall festival that I tried to uplift in my role as mayor. And she came again, she staffed the table, it was new and different concept, and she didn't think it fit. She actually said, all right, let's get used to this. And then she could give me good constructive feedback afterwards, which was awesome. But she does so much more than the garden club. Again, she's giving back in many ways, and she also has a historic role herself in that she was the first woman ever elected and the first woman council president in her town of city. Care of the water authority in that town as well. And so not only does she take care of our zoning board chair, but she does so much good. And the garden club has their annual sale on Mother's Day weekend, May 10th. Come to Kingsport behind Forget-Me-Nots, where you can make the flower centerpieces. For those who need cheering up, you can also shop for mom or grandma or caretakers, sisters, daughters, and friends at Deb's table, where she will be selling florals to raise money for the Haddonfield Park. And next we have Mrs. Pierce. I don't believe Joyce is with us tonight. Okay. Next is someone I was just on a call with today, and that is Andrea Rano. We were on the PFH call this morning for events. She is the vice chair of our downtown business improvement district, as Jamie knows from being at Walker. And, I don't really know where to begin. She has been with me on this board of the Partnership for Haddonfield since I first took office, and predate me taking office. And Sharon also told me, baby steps, Colleen, don't get your hopes up, it's gonna take longer than one term. And I proved Sharon wrong. And that is all thanks to Andrea and her board, but her leadership has really been instrumental in it. She has owned her business, The Paper Trail, for over 20 years. And give her a round of downtown 20 years. And she moved to Haddonfield, she's now one of our residents. And she is a bright light, and I will tell you, those of you who know my son has health challenges, he's neurodivergent and has a severe pediatric autoimmune condition. When he goes to Andrea at events, I know that no matter what is going on, no matter what crisis the chief calls me about, I know no matter who's mudslinging, if I can leave him in her stroller with her two chihuahuas, I don't have to worry. I mean, I could come back 4 hours later and he will be eating a safe food, having a nice beverage with Miss Andrea and talking to her mom and playing with the dogs or antagonizing them. And that just, you know, when you're a parent, that means everything. But she truly gives up hours of her life unpaid to make this downtown and the people town better. And more recently, she started contributing to a project with Jessica at the Historical Society, where she is really creating a historical marker program for those of us who may not live in the historic district or may live inside of it, that will announce the date of your home and really give that way to celebrate the history. And Tony, who's with our HPC, is also a part of this, but this is again like women connecting with other women who are helping each other get things done to make improvements. And I'm just really grateful to Andrea as a person, as a mom, as a mayor, and as the event chair, because without her cheering me on and saying, I buy into this vision and I'll help you execute it with blood, sweat, and tears. I have Nancy Rauschenberg. Nancy's gonna be with us tonight, but I love that she got cheered. She's wonderful. Let's see, you have Adrian Rose. I'm embarrassed to say how around like the same time I met my mother-in-law, because I was doing work in Kansas City with the redevelopment authority, and so I know her as Carla Rose. And when we first connected again here in Haddonfield, I think the whole thing like, wait a minute, Miss Carla, no, this is Adrian Rose, and we had a chuckle about that. And so Adrian has really been a powerhouse and a force to be reckoned with, and she gives me something to strive for every single day. Like Rosie, she really sets the bar high for representing not only women, but Black and women of color in this community who are extremely underrepresented and who are deserving of the recognition and the celebration and the acknowledgement that they belong here too. And that there are these beautiful, powerful stories of Black families and a history that is very uncomfortable for a lot of people to talk about and a lot of people to acknowledge. We survived since 1713 here, so a lot has happened between slavery and Jim Crow and everything else that continues today. And so it is an honor for me to work with you in creating events and supporting and amplifying. I thank you for everything you do, Adrian, and we should all be so proud that she has stepped up to the plate and created the Preserving Black Haddonfield History Project. There's so many points here, again, that is supporting women and lifting up Black women, and that's incredibly important to me. And as a member, again, of the Student Relations Commission, this is the work we are meant to do. So thank you. Okay, next we have Lucy City. That's not managing to make it work. And again, the reason I moved this to the front part of the agenda, because there are bedtimes to be had. It's a school night, we're all back in spring break. It's very difficult right now. But we're recognizing your mom for all that she does in this community. Again, representing Muslim women, representing women who are parenting children, have varying abilities, varying needs, and need a voice and an advocate. And as our first Muslim member of the Board of Education in Haddonfield, that alone in and of itself is something that deserves recognition. Someone who texts you out of the blue or in response to something you text that is very benign, like, hey, heard this is coming up, hope to see you. You know, she has taken the time, again, raising 4 beautiful children, married to her wonderful husband, working on the PTA, working on CPAD. She will send me a text that is so thoughtful, or that signifies she knows that I'm struggling, that it really means a lot to her. And I'm so grateful to have a mom like her on the playground at Tatum. And just so grateful for all she does and all she represents to the little girls and the little ones in the borough and beyond. So thank you. Next, we have Dr. Aparna Sarens. Again, if you hear Dr. Sarens, I have to call out that this is, again, like a woman working a very important, critical job in healthcare, who took the time to create Haddonfield's first ever Diwali flash mob. So that when you are working on boards like Celebration, Mayor Jack and his words, and you're working in groups like the Lions, historically, there wasn't representation necessarily of anyone celebrating the vote. And that doesn't mean that we in Haddonfield are against it, opposed to it. It certainly did in my case, but to have a resident step up and feel comfortable saying, hey, I'm gonna put this together and start with my neighbors and start with my friends, and then come to the police, come to the Human Relations Commission and say, I think this could be great for the borough. And boy, did she have support, which was like amazing. It just really warms my heart, and again, speaks to the example and the leadership I want our children to see throughout Haddonfield and the county and the region. And I just can't thank her enough, because now, like, my son knows what the Diwali is, thanks to Dr. Aparna. And he also now, like, you know, has explored and experienced the books about Diwali and talking to classmates about it. And that is something that wouldn't necessarily happen if I sat him down and tried to talk to him about it at 9 years old. He would much rather read or listen to something else. But now that he saw what the festival can be and the light, bright nature of it and the dancing, he thinks it's the best thing ever, and he would rather celebrate that than Christmas. So, and so that's, you know, what we try to do in our house, is like these things that we should all celebrate. So, thank you for that. Okay, it's Rosalie Shapiro here. and I first met, I think around the same time I met you. She actually was the first administrator of the partnership for Haddonfield. And that was the start of our downtown business organization. And I met her when I was like 19 years old and super green, and Chicks was having me help her cut ribbons. And, I just thought you set such an example for me and left an impression on me. I don't know that you knew that. And I just waited for this time to surprise her because she's also a member of Rotary. And I know how much she supports various organizations. My husband's in Rotary with her, and she shows up again and again. And if you're hosting an event and you want someone to be there for you, she is one of these people, one of these women in Haddonfield who will show up when she says she will, and she's a friend to many others. And so if it wasn't for her, I don't know that the partnership would be in the position it is, having the success it does. And I really credit you for that, and with being an active advocate for so many things. Next, we have Jen Sheeran. Jen I met when I was first campaigning in 2019. And she really is just a tremendous person all around. Because she does so much for this community. Again, she's working full time. She has two beautiful children. She is involved in their school. She leads a Girl Scout troop. And we connected on so many things. And when I was working to reinvent the partnership for Haddonfield, the Human Relations Commission, Jen actually stepped up and volunteered to be a new member, even though she's also working on the Preserving Black Haddonfield History Project with Adrian and Jen and Stacy and others. And so she just does so many things to make this borough better and more welcoming. She worked with Aparna, she's worked with Adrian, she worked with Machine, she worked with Heather and Nancy, and it's all about lifting our kids up and setting examples for them. And when I had the opportunity to work with your daughter, they speak volumes about you and your character because they will do great things. And they give me hope for the future. And I want one of them to be mayor here. So Jen, thank you for everything you do and for all you give back, and just being a person who supports other people constantly. We have Sherry Siegel. Like, again, great, light, bubbly, but she is so much more. She's the director of our senior service, our Maple Cave Senior Center. And that's not a word that I'm a liaison to, but that speaks volumes because her energy and her love for seniors is infectious. And she has done so much good in such a short amount of time to bring light to people and really bring joy. And I have never been moved so hard to serve so much lemonade as the senior picnic that Sherry hosts. But she's also a tremendous advocate for our kids. And I've had really frank and difficult conversations with her about what it's like to raise a child in this day and age, and sometimes in this borough, when they're exploring their identity and when we're trying to recognize and give strength and space for LGBTQ kids. And we really want to teach them that it's okay to be themselves, and it's actually what we need and what we want to grow in them. And the fact that she has supported multi-generational or intergenerational support and created this memoir project where our seniors are working with students to actually capture and tell their stories to their high school peers about what it's like to be in the British generation, what it's like to have served in world wars, what it's like to have lived through Jim Crow in the South or travel great distances to come to this country and build a better life for yourself. Those are the kind of stories that Sherry empowered our community to read and retain and tell. And so. Next, we have Nancy Sullivan. Nancy lives on my street, unfortunately for her, because I'm always walking down. She is a tremendous mom, and she's so much fun, but she has two beautiful sons. And Justin and Thomas have taught me and my son so much. She parents the way that I hope to parent as my son gets older. And as a neighbor, she's the person you want on your street. She is an advocate, not only for kids, but young adults. She is an advocate for LGBTQIA and adults. She is an advocate for our Black community member, our brown community member. She's also very outspoken and passionate about supporting anyone who needs plaintiffs at fault or who needs representation. And when I first met her, I thought we could just power walk together, but we never had time to do that. And so, she's a realtor and she works really hard to help support her family in many. And as a neighbor, it's really a blessing to have her down the street from me. And I think so many of us know someone like that. So, Nancy, you're getting recognized tonight really for being the neighbor we all. It was great. I know everyone's like busy time. Next we have Denise Stewart. So, I actually met Denise through my husband Anthony. She is a past president of the Haddonfield Rotary Club, and my husband's a board member, so that's how we connected. She is also an incredible performer. Her voice is something to treasure, and she's like I don't know why. Because when you do the magical singing, I'm always going to be able to hear her lovely voice. But she really is a woman who has been in leadership, who lifted me up when I needed it. And I'm gonna get emotional about Denise because again, my mother-in-law was ill this winter, and I was nominated for an award, and she found out about it through Anthony, and she showed up. And it meant so much to me. My mother-in-law couldn't be there, and she sat at the table right next to my family with others that were important. Helen was there. And it just spoke volumes to me because she'd always been in my corner. And I don't think I'm able to say much more than that. I really do so much for her. She's been kind to him, and I don't think really did it. I don't think she knows just how much that has helped us. And again, as a woman in leadership in an organization that did not always permit women to be involved, I'm just proud of you and all you've achieved, and I want to say thank you. Okay, Julie Vick. My connection to Julie extends to the wedding industry too. We met her daughter-in-law, Amanda, incredibly talented wedding photographer, like, oh my gosh, magazine. She's like untraveled chops and and we first met in that way and then connected because we saw each other at Wedgewood Tennis Club and I saw her granddaughter, who's about the same age as my son, running around at Wedgewood Pool and I did a double take, like that's Amanda's little girl, how did you know her? Turned out really was her grandmother. And so, it just really gave me such an excitement to know someone in a town I was new to with a little one yet. But I'm recognizing Lily tonight because of her work as well with Mom Prevent Action. We also connected, in trying to end gun violence as a mom of a young child. Her work to me was something I really admired and I felt was necessary to keep our kids safe. And she does so much for her family, her alma mater, Penny College, from planning their significant milestones and events to also looking to take care of her family. And her family has suffered gun violence directly. And her ability to speak as a victim and as a victim's advocate for what her brother lived or her brother passed away from is just something that is tremendously important and her voice matters. And I'm so grateful to you for sharing your story and being courageous enough to share it with all of us in the work that you do. And you're a wonderful friend. And then we have, last but certainly not least, I don't believe Larissa is here, correct? So we have, okay, Betty Ann Young. Betty Ann, right, Jenny's here, right up front, okay. Betty Ann is on our library board with Amy Goodworth and I, and she is always such a great one. I actually connected with her also on QIA advocacy, and you sent me a message that I have framed in my office, and that was after we hung the first pride flags in the borough of Haddonfield. And I'm not gonna reveal the message, but it meant so much to me that you felt that was important and that you took the time to recognize that and speak up about it. And, Betty Ann has undergone tremendous health challenges in recent years, and that doesn't stop her. And to me, that just says so much about endurance and grace and grit and giving back to a community that she's called to embrace her kids in and, staying here when a lot of people flee. She is remaining here and she is still giving back even when she is facing adversity. And again, she sends those positive messages that we all need. So I just want to thank you for this. Again, so if everyone who's honored, we just wait 1 minute before we take a shot to you. There we go.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming. I'll be real quick. I did write about an hour-long speech. There was 35 amazing women that were honored. I just want to take 2 minutes to honor another amazing woman. It will be hard to surpass these 35 women and their amazing accomplishments, but I wanted to honor our mayor, Colleen Beyond, because it's for her amazing accomplishment. Thank you is not strong enough, or no words to say what an amazing woman that she is, and how she advocated for public safety for the borough for the entire 6 years. I remember 6 years ago sitting down for our first meeting at the Westmont Diner, and we were discussing our goals, or what I wanted to accomplish, what she wanted to accomplish. One of my #1 goals was a new home for our police department. We were just in the middle of, I don't know, our 10th or 15th flood downstairs. The mold was rampant, and it was just a bad place to be. And I told Colleen, and the very first thing she did was, we're gonna get you a new home. And her tirelessly squeaky wheel with the politicians, with the commissioners, the residents. I'm happy to say that in a few short months, that we'll be in a new home, and it's all because of Mayor Colleen Bianchi's. Hasn't always been good, been up and down. You know, there hasn't been probably 1 or 2 days that have gone by that somehow we haven't communicated. Text, phone, email, smoke signal, whatever it is, whatever we had to accomplish, she was always the first one there behind, got our backs, got the men and women of the police department, all of her, to thank you for everything that you've done. You're a testament to public safety. So that we couldn't be prouder than all you director, first director, female director of public safety. An amazing woman, and just thank you for your.
And I see that, you can hear on it. I wanted to say it during our public safety report, so, let's do a quick pick of all the ladies who are honored tonight, if we could. So that we can run those. Okay, if you were happy, one, stand up here. And with that hand, friends, up with your down, down. I know we're.
I know.
Can everybody else, gentlemen? Yeah, thanks. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Right up here to the big camera. Just a few times. What's there? Okay, we're looking good back here. What's that?
Thank you.
Really.
Proclamation. I want to thank everyone for their patience tonight. I thought it was important to recognize this one, and so many of them have small ones that they needed to get bedtime. So next up, we have a series of proclamations, and one which we were doing was Jewish American Heritage Month, which Steve, I'm going to put the proclamation back from you to read it. But we will begin with the 150th anniversary of incorporation of the Borough of Haddonfield. And that is April 6th of 2025. And just please bear with me because
At 7:30 p.m. I was there.
it doesn't really know. Yeah, so whereas the Borough of Haddonfield was officially incorporated on April 6th, 1875, and is a community of history, culture, and commitment to progress. And whereas Haddonfield has long played a vital role in the region, recognized for its historic landmark, tree-lined streets, and steadfast commitment to preserving its heritage, while embracing innovation and strengthening community connections. Whereas the residents of Haddonfield have demonstrated unwavering pride in their town, contributing to its growth and development through civic involvement, volunteerism, and a strong sense of community. And whereas over the past 150 years, Haddonfield has celebrated countless milestones, built lasting traditions, and nurtured a diverse, inclusive community that welcomes all. And whereas the rich history of Haddonfield includes its pivotal role in the American Revolutionary War and the establishment of significant historical landmarks such as the Indian King Tower, the Haddonfield Folk-Eye Lady Site, the National which was designated in 1994 as one of approximately 2,500 places listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and where it is the first relatively complete set of dinosaur bones discovered in 1838 and excavated in 1852. And whereas the borough continues to thrive as a model of community and ongoing efforts to enhance the quality of life for its residents, support local businesses, and promote environmental sustainability, it is fitting to commemorate this milestone with celebration, reflection, and gratitude for all who have contributed to making Haddonfield a wonderful place to live and work. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Borough of Haddonfield, County of Camden, State of New Jersey, we do hereby proclaim April 6, 2025 as the 150th anniversary of the incorporation of the Borough of Haddonfield, and encourage our residents to join in celebrating this momentous occasion.
Doug's here.
Nancy?
I along with Kathy Justine serves the borough historian, and it's a great honor to be part of this historic community. I will talk for 1 minute. But the history lesson here is 1875, Haddonfield does become a separate borough, but not entirely. They were still a part of linked to Haddon Township in some strange way, and the commissioners had a very unassuming title of Commissioner of Streets. What you would have been called back then, because mostly it was public works and the school system and other things were still under Haddon Township. You didn't actually become totally independent until 1898, when we formed the mayor and council, and we've been a commission form of government since 1913. So great history. Thank you. We'll put the proclamation in the historical society archives, which I still think of as a new archives. Thank you.
Commissioner, did you want? Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We already took the picture for, which is great. But this is also really the recognition of definition of anti-Semitism. We are also making a proclamation this evening regarding Jewish American Heritage Month for the month of May 2025. And this proclamation reads in part, whereas Jewish immigrants to America since their first arrival to our shores in the 16th century have played a central role in the creation, growth, freedom, prosperity, and strength of the United States of America. And whereas the biblical and contemporary history of the Jewish people and enduring values of their faith were vital sources of inspiration for the founding of the U.S., the civil rights movement, America's local leadership in the cause for freedom, and America's commitment to social justice, as well as many of our country's most central tenets. And whereas Jewish American Heritage Month is a month to celebrate the contributions Jewish Americans have made to America's history, society, and culture for over 350 years. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Commissioners, Borough of Haddonfield, County of Camden, State of New Jersey, do hereby proclaim May 2025 as Jewish American Heritage Month. This proclamation is another one that is so timely and so, I'll say, meaningful, especially seeing who's here tonight to recognize it and accept it. And this is a proclamation regarding Teacher Appreciation Week, and it reads in part, whereas teachers play an essential role in the lives of children by inspiring a lifelong love of learning, nurturing curiosity and creativity, and helping students reach their fullest potential. And whereas the teachers of Haddonfield, through their dedication, professionalism, and compassion, strengthen the very foundation of our schools and community. And whereas the Haddonfield Education Association, representing outstanding educators, is a vital partner in the life of our borough, not only in the classroom, but also through leadership and participation in enriching community events open to all. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the Board of Commissioners of the Borough of Haddonfield does hereby recognize the week, May 5th, through May 11th, 2025, as Teacher Appreciation Week. And that.
And you won't walk anywhere. She's talking.
Now that we're really what we have to do. Acclamations left, and I'm going to do the next one first, maybe out of order. But this is designating May as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And we have members of the Relations Commission here, and we also have Rosie sitting here, whose birthday it is as well, whose son not only represents the Jewish culture, but also the Korean culture. And so I'm very honored that Rosie brought this to our attention. And this proclamation reads in part, whereas the month of May is designated as American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, a time to recognize and celebrate the rich and diverse cultures, contributions, and histories of Asian American and Pacific Islanders in our great nation. And whereas the diversity in cultures made significant contributions to the social fabric of Haddonfield and the United States, enhancing our communities, their traditions, art, cuisine, and innovation. And whereas we acknowledge the challenges, sacrifices, and resilience of Asian American and Pacific Islander individuals and families. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Board of Commissioners, Borough of Haddonfield, County of Clarendon, State of New Jersey, does hereby proclaim May 2025 as Asian American and Pacific Islander Month. Relations Commission, Timothy, as the mother of the Korean Jewish son, you are welcome. If any deserving, Commissioners.
You gotta take it all.
Undertaking a health wellness campaign. This proclamation is related to mental health awareness, which is also May 2025. And I'll just read this one in part as well. And this recognizes whereas mental health is an essential part of overall health and well-being and affects one's physical health, relationships, and ability to thrive. And whereas activities such as exercise, mindfulness, social connections, unplugging from news and social media, pursuing hobbies. It says hubby in here, yeah. I don't know if we wanted to be pursuing a hobby. But we see we would be doing this really late. I wonder if I. But pursuing hobbies, spending time in nature and self-care may support mental health. And whereas the rates of anxiety, depression, and other mental illness rose since the beginning of COVID, significantly increasing the need for holistic and specific mental health services according to the NIMH. And whereas a greater understanding from emerging science and research of toxic stress and adverse childhood experiences has informed understanding of the worsening mental health and suicide rates of youth, affirming a multifaceted and swift response was necessary to address this growing public health crisis. Before I end it, I will just say, I mentioned many times, I'm a parent of a neurodivergent child who has an immunological condition that affects his mental health when he's ill. So when he becomes physically ill with a certain type of infection, it actually causes the ganglia in his brain to swell. And what that means as a parent is my child can change very quickly, very instantly, without warning. And there's often times where we are managing physical and mental health challenges at the same time. And Stacy, who's here and was here to represent our teachers, is such a strength and bright light because she knows exactly what I'm talking about as a mom and as an educator. She worked with my son. And it takes so much work for the parents of kids like ours, and so much work for the caretakers of all children, the children who are different or divergent or who have health challenges or mental health struggles. It's so meaningful that we talk about it. And so as long as I'm here, I don't need to be mayor, I don't need to be commissioner. As long as I'm here, I'm going to continue to work with people like Stacy, our educators, our social workers, and everyone in the borough to continue to commit, along with law enforcement, to really helping youth and helping adults who are struggling. So now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Commissioners, Borough of Haddonfield, County of Kansas, State of New Jersey, do hereby proclaim May 2025 as Mental Health Awareness Month. And again, to make Stacy come on and any members of the commission, or anyone who would like to represent themselves or their child, or someone in their life who has struggled with mental health or anything related, you are welcome to come on. And commissioners. I didn't want to hop. We are moving on to departmental reports so that our board staff members can retire for the evening. But I just wanted to take a moment, several, to, instead of asking Chief Foreman and Chief Cutler to read their monthly reports, or Joanna or Michael, I wanted to give a recap of what I am so grateful to them for and all they've accomplished. I think they've accomplished because I'm just a figurehead. I come up with vision, I come up with plans. Oftentimes Sharon has to bring me back down to earth or reality. But these are the people that are here every day. And these are the people that actually put effort in and stand alongside us to get this stuff done. And so I think it's really important for me to recognize them for all they've done. And that's hopefully what I'm going to do momentarily. So I'm going to start with public affairs. When I ran for office in 2019, transparency was still a buzzword then, like it is today. And I remember being very concerned about the fact that I didn't know what any statistics were in any departments. And we had this title of Director of Public Affairs, but it didn't seem to mean anything to me. There was no regular social media presence. There was no monthly reporting. There was no statistics given out. The website was dated back to the early 2000s. And there was a lot that I saw as problematic. And that really is I'll say a credit to Sharon McCullough, because talk about a woman who, as Jack knows, she came on board many years ago, not or yesterday. She came on as the assistant to the administrator, who happened to be a man. And when he left and Sharon rose into his station, she didn't get an assistant. I'm not gonna say that was deliberate because she's a woman. I hope that wasn't the case. But I may be the first commissioner who paid attention to that because I'm a woman and I had her job. And I know how hard it is, particularly when men walk into your office and say, "Where's your boss?" So I was determined that Sharon could not get crucified for the inability to manage new social media, a website, and other things that were evolving, because quite frankly, she did not have the resources, the staff, the money, or the infrastructure to do it. And with that, she supported me, particularly in how we saw COVID evolving and impacting people, and everyone being so isolated, in pursuing an actual staff member and actual efforts in public affairs. And I really want to give Sharon a round of applause, and she's gonna roll her eyes at me. But not within my, he talks to me more than she probably wants to. And so in 2019, 2020, I was like, Sharon, we really need help. We need another woman like Lee to help us really solve all the problems of the world and transparency. And while I couldn't convince others to make this a full-time position, I do want to raise taxes in order to fill this position, because I knew I wouldn't be supported in that with public outcry. We were able to utilize existing budget, existing expenditure line, and bring in Joanna next time. Joanna started in the fall of 2021. Oh, yeah, before we get to Joanna, Deanna just sent me a paper that Sharon is the third administrator in Haddonfield's history.
Wow.
So anyway, so Sharon has the toughest job of anyone. And she worked with me knowing what my goals and ambitions were, knowing that she still has to serve 3 individual bosses, all of whom come together in this town without a slate, without a vision, collective identity, or agenda, which is more challenging often for someone in her role, than if we all ran on a slate together. She worked with me to bring Joanna on board. And I'm gonna embarrass Joanna now because she is a Peabody and Emmy award-winning journalist. She's a news producer who has worked not only in Haddonfield, where she grew up, or Philadelphia, but in Miami. And she has traveled all over and also raised 2 amazing kids. And she moves back to town after traveling and working and pursuing things. And I don't think people realize what a gem she is. And I could not have survived, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart, I know Sal's laughing at me now, but I could not have survived the last 3 years without Joanna. So I want to give her a round of applause. No, they can probably get back there, won't put them on the spot, but I mean, it was not until Joanna that we ever did a formal press conference. Issued a press statement, generated relationships, nurtured relationships with press, gave calls, gave formal statements, painstakingly recreated history on the website. And before Joanna, I was begging and pleading with Chief Cutler and other department heads to show up to the meetings and give monthly reports. That was the first time to my knowledge, that was a mandate, that every month you come, you sit at this table, usually it's not this late, but you give a report so that the residents know, what crime do we have? There's no excuse for anyone in this town to say they can't understand or don't know what the stats are or the facts are, because every month the chief of police and the chief of the fire department sit here, it's in writing, they talk about it, there's the opportunity to ask questions, and we were the first administration to do that. And when Joanna came on board, we championed a number of projects, beginning with the monthly reports and her helping me to make them more accessible. We also tackled an app, a business alert text system, a redesigned website, which yes, still leaves much to be desired, but we did that on a shoestring with no additional charge to taxpayers, using an existing vendor. It wasn't my choice, but we made do with what we could. We also created active ongoing socials, a monthly newsletter, the first ever press advisories and press conferences, ongoing and consistent collaboration with the school district. Next year, we're talking to Polly every week, we're exchanging and collaborating and sharing information. Also the library, we honored some members here, monthly meetings with community organizations. When I hear people talk about we're disconnected and no one knows who supports the community organization, Joanna and I spent every one Friday a month for 2.5 years, and we still hold those meetings. I don't get to make them all now, it's fading out. But we started those meetings so we could know, we could talk, we could uplift. Jack's been on them. We do ask for volunteers and financial. It's up to the orgs if they want to attend, of course. But that's an effort that Joanna made on her just 20 hours a week that she's working. She really works 60. She has helped the partnership for Haddonfield in particular. She came on board around the same time we hired Michael, and she alleviated it for Sharon. The need to constantly be the person putting out fires and crisis comms and responding to reporters like Matt. When we show up on the scene of a fire, we have Chief Foreman, myself, Joanna, we're a well-oiled machine at this, but that didn't exist before. And I'm really proud of that, and I trust Joanna with any bit of information that we possibly have. She is not only diligent, she is absolutely trustworthy, and she knows discretion and diplomacy are the key to this job. And I don't know another borough of our size that has a Joanna. So I really have to applaud her. And it was only through the press pitches and her constant listening to me and doing what I asked of her without, she always would point out what was good or bad. She always gave me feedback and constructive criticism, which I need. But her work is what resulted in that Good Morning America piece for our downtown. Her work is what resulted in the Wall Street Journal recognizing our Halloween activities. That was Joanna, working on behalf of the partnership and the borough for our residents and our businesses. We had over 10,000 people on the highway for the first ever music festival. There were businesses coming up to us and telling us they sold out. It was their best day in the history of their opening. And that's, again, a credit to her, a woman who doesn't own a business downtown, but knows how hard it is for our individual businesses to do their own social and do their own press. Matt and Joan covered in their respective publications, like what it is to be a new restaurant, right? And what it is to actually put in the work and meet the staff, not to monitor your website or to post on social, but to actually rely on someone like Joanna. Not only did she help me create the music festival, also Happy Birthday Hattie, the Health and Wellness Festival, the wellness campaign with events like the domestic violence event, PSAs for public safety. Again, we talk about Drive 25 all the time. It's been on the app, it's been on social, it's been on the website. If you're unhappy with your neighbor speaking, talk to them. If they blow through the signs, more signs won't help. Those are the kind of messages and the kind of things that Joanna has helped us communicate. She's also helped us host, amplify, and uplift traditional events. When people talk about why did Fall Festival go away, Joanna can tell you why. Because it was probably 60 hours of blood, sweat, and tear by her and I with COVID to uplift that event. And it takes a lot of Joannas to make something successful. I also just want to touch on not only her ability to contribute to the holiday tree lighting, the special events with the other awards, and the connections that we've maintained with our community organizations, but the stats on transparency in the borough. Our Haddonfield Happenings app was only launched in 2023. It's only been around for just over 800 days. And since that time, there have been over nearly 4,000 iOS downloads, 3,999 to be exact, and 431 Android downloads. That's almost as many households as there are in Haddonfield. There are 452 unique accounts, and in those approximately 800 days since we started the app, we've given over 540 notifications. That means every other day, if not more frequently, something has been going on about road closures, public safety, a school event, a library event, Green Week. We also inspired our neighbors in Cherry Hill and Barrington. Bigger than us, Cherry Hill certainly is, not Barrington, but many more staff, much more infrastructure in place to create the same atmosphere. Our Instagram grew more than double since Joanna came on board. Our Facebook grew by 38% in terms of followers. And our HPD Facebook grew to over 6,000 followers because of the regular, consistent updates and references to the app. As I said, we had a glitch with this brand new AV system. It's gonna be like the baby I birthed after all this time. But I really want to give Joanna again a round of applause and just thank her for the transparency that she has absolutely 1,000% delivered to everyone here and everyone out there and everyone on Zoom. And I know and I hope that in the future that will only continue to grow. You can always do better with more of it, Joanna. If it wasn't for you, none of this would be possible. So thank you.
Thank you.
The partnership for Haddonfield, which is our business improvement district. Michael also started around the same time as the first ever executive director of the partnership, first full-time staff member we brought on board. Again, that was because Sharon and I were killing ourselves, trying to keep up with the needs and the demands 24/7. I look at Jack because when he was mayor, I say this with love and respect, people wrote you a letter and they dropped it off to Deanna or Sharon. They postmarked it, or they sent a fax. And that is completely different than the 24/7 attachment that this mayor or these commissioners have constantly. I get emails that say, I wrote you 2 hours ago, why haven't you written me back? It's not because I work a full-time job, raise a child, or volunteer for multiple other organizations. It's because I haven't even read it yet, because my inbox averages 4,000 emails a week. So yes, I haven't gone and comply on it for that reason. And so I just say, again, why public affairs was so necessary was because the news cycle and the communication speed has changed dramatically. And when we brought Michael, part of why Sharon and I, the dynamic duo that we are, brought Michael on was he interviewed for Joanna's job. And we said, ooh, you have a social media skill set. You really want to attract business. And Andrew's sitting back there. Thank you for everything. Michael really has contributed again. That Wall Street Journal article was about the new event we created. When Michael first interviewed, I was like, what are you gonna do about October, dude? Like, show me what you got. Because we are the home of Halloween and we aren't doing anything about it. And the key to beating COVID, depression in the market and the economy here is events. It's experiential. And he was young enough and with it enough and energetic enough to get that and to really find his place. And it's taken a bit of time because again, he's run up against the, you're new, you're young, you don't live here. And that has made it. So during COVID, I sponsored mini grants to support the small businesses. That's pre-Michael. Then when we brought him in at no additional cost to the bid taxpayers. In fact, that rate has not been increased in nearly 20 years since the bid's inception. Michael worked with Chief Cutler, Joanna, and I to create the first ever of any community around us business text alert system. I don't know another town that has it, at least in Camden County. And that means that when there's petty theft or another incident, at Patco, at the Acme, at Rite Aid, our businesses get an alert. So they can act appropriately and as quickly as safely possible. We also created the Super Bowl, Women's History Networking, Pride events, Summer Street Feast, the Halloween Night Market, Brunch Big, Shop Small, and Joy to Networking. We partnered regularly and still do with nonprofits. Again, the community connections we have tried to forge and deepen, extend to Celebration, the Lions, Rotary, the Coordinate, Indian King Tavern, and many others. We also partnered outside of Haddonfield. I do believe as mayor, we need to step outside the bubble. We need to look around. When people complain to me about an individual who's housing insecure, I say that's why we donate to Cathedral Kitchen. That's what you can do. That's how we give back, that's how we make things better. We build housing, like you see behind us, and we embed it in the community, and Michael helps with all of that. We have generated over $15,000 for Cathedral Kitchen. And that is the kind of work that gets recognized throughout the region. We've also generated thousands of dollars in sponsorships to prevent that bid tax from increasing. We expanded our retail retention and recruitment grants. We created a series to feature Haddon Avenue businesses. Some people have complained, and I don't blame them for saying they don't get as much love as the highway. So what did Michael do? He took it upon himself. I didn't even direct him to do this initially. He said, hey, Colleen, I think I'm gonna come up with a campaign on socials to feature the Haddon Ave businesses. And that landed folks on Good Morning America. That actually is what contributed to Joanna being able to pitch to GMA what we could feature. We also created consistent attention grabbing social, and some of our professional sports team players who live in town will credit their wives' following of Michael's social media as what brought them to Haddonfield and why they're living, shopping, and visiting here. And that is something we should celebrate. We achieved something I'm extremely proud of. Having worked on the bid creation 20 years ago, we achieved the Main Street, New Jersey designation, and that is something that also brings us more money, more resources, and training. And Michael walks the beat with the PD. Every holiday season, I told him that was incredibly important. The business owners need to know that they need to know what to do to prevent retail theft. They need to know what to do if there's an emergency with one of their employees. And he didn't roll his eyes at me. He's actually gone out and done that. And that can be really challenging at times. Most importantly, I want to say thank you to Michael, because Haddonfield has not only been rated the safest community, but it has been rated as recently as this week by the Courier Post as the #2 destination next to only Cape May in our region. And that is a fact. I just apologize. I'm really grateful, and I really want to celebrate the people who do the work here. Public safety. I'll try to keep this as brief as possible. I want to first start with fire. Chief Foreman, we started our first interaction together could not have been more of a ruffling of feathers. Am I putting it in the most?
I think it helped.
Yeah. Mayor Jack was in that meeting. And I just want to thank you, because I asked you to trust me that no, I wasn't combining fire with other departments. No, I wasn't doing that with police. No, I wasn't out to get you. No, I wasn't out to diminish the history of Haddon Fire Company. I only wanted to make it better. And you knew way more than I did about EMS and emergency services, fire service. But I came to you saying, well, please listen to me and trust me, I do know something about the law. Please listen to Sharon, she knows something about the administration. And ultimately, when you became the chief, you followed through on that trust, and you enabled us to do some incredible things. And it is thanks to your leadership. I know Chief Frontino, I want to credit him with setting up a lot of great things, and the work that we did to start not only the initial grant that we got to examine for the first time in Haddon Fire Company's history, we looked at the fire service. We looked at what are response times. We looked at what are other boroughs doing, not doing. What does mutual aid look like? What are the challenges? People ridiculed it. People said that that was my underhanded way of destroying the fire company, and they could not have been more wrong. Because what we have done together is invest over $250,000 in the last year. Think about that. Before us, it was $15,000. 15. We have invested over $250,000 waiting. Hopefully the feds don't mess with our opportunity for SCBA of another $250,000. But I will be good on my promise to you that I will continue to fight for the fire company and the fire department. And I will continue to applaud the work that you do, for the numbers we've hit, for being a model to our neighboring communities. When I go to the mayor's meetings, they say, how is Haddonfield attracting volunteers? We are the only fire company actively recruiting. Chief Gorman has upped our numbers, 25% active membership increase, over 80% stipend program. That's a credit to him and the members. That's what I'm thankful for. And we have worked with kids. But like I said with Joanna, we are a well-oiled machine, and I will miss those 4 a.m. calls. I will miss, not that I'm on vacation like this week, but you know, I can't even speak to the week you just had. Ocean County for a forest fire, a fire here within our borough, a fire in Cherry Hill, another fire here in our borough. That 24/7 paid staffing is incredibly important, and now we get recognized also by other career departments. And we have worked really hard to achieve that, and I just thank you, because again, I'm a woman, I'm the first woman to serve in this role. And while we ruffled each other's feathers, you never disrespected me. You were never treating me with misogyny or sexism, and I've had plenty of that inside and outside this borough. So I want to thank you, I want to give you the respect you deserve, and I want to say that only good things will happen, and I look forward to, being a cheerleader from the side. For the stuff about the days, so everyone's gonna have to bear with. I'm gonna say Jay, not Chief Cutler, because the first month I was in office, actually predating my time in office, right? Those nasty rumors that I was trying to take apart, dismantle, combine, regionalize our police force were everywhere. And I knew that wasn't the truth. But again, misogyny and history and partisan motivations will have upper ways. And I had to sit down with this man who did not know me from a hole in the ground and convince him that I loved our law enforcement, that I understood the realities of policing in the suburbs versus policing in a city, that I understood what our issues could be, would be, and that I was disgusted by the condition our officers had been working in for decades. And the first event we went to was called Cards for Cops. And it was so cute, actually, Assemblywoman Lambert was there, it was little kids from the community giving cards to cops for Valentine's Day. And Lieutenant Holloway and Chief Cutler and I had this incredible exchange. And I told him, as he said, you tell me what you need, and I will help you get it. And if I am proud of nothing else, it's that police department. Those men and women, and we are proudly over 30% women in that department. Those men and women give their darndest every day for you and I, like our firefighters, like our EMS. And I watch them and I am in awe, because we have a chief who understands this is a suburb, a very white suburb, a very socioeconomically blessed, fortunate suburb, where sometimes you know what they get called about? Someone having dark skin. We don't have violent crime in the field, thankfully. We work to prevent, we work to do community policing, we work to keep it that way. And I am so proud and so grateful that we have a chief that understands discretion and taking your time and not listening to special or outside sources, but respecting the agencies you partner with and how you get things done. He has taught me so much in 6 years. And he has been a friend to my family. He also has suffered health challenges with my son when we have undergone actual crises, not manufactured ones, but people losing their lives. Technical rescues at PACCO. Situations that nobody, like the men in these uniforms, wants to ever encounter. And they don't go blasted on social media, nor should they. And I'm proud of them that they don't do that. So I want to thank them, to both chiefs, for their commitment to respecting the privacy and the rights of our citizens while doing their jobs. And I'll just end with the fact that not only did we convene a Santa caravan, thanks to Sergeant Walker, who created, because everyone always, she didn't want to use the fire trucks, chief, right? No, the real reason was our truck was getting work done, because it was in the shop, our big one. And that's why we originally didn't opt for a fire apparatus. We opted for a police vehicle. And Sergeant Walker made the sleigh that Santa, and since it's so late, I can say it's actually in disguise. And thank you to the Berman family this year earlier, they donated that costume. But we brought Santa. I don't know other police departments in 2020 that did that, but that's something I'm really proud of, especially being a mom. Chief Cutler helped launch the business text alert system. He advocated for his men and women to have a new home. And he understands the importance of community policing. When I asked him to host family movie nights, he did not roll his eyes. He did not say, I'm too good for that, I don't love that. He actually bought more candy than I did. And he bought the borough's first blow-up movie screen. So That is something you will have for generations to come, unless another mouse is a whole thing. And we have had unprecedented lows in certain phases of crime. As I said, we don't have violent crime here, we're so fortunate it's largely property crimes. And the work that he has done to prevent and reduce domestic violence, burglaries, motor vehicle thefts, and similar phases of crime is tremendous, particularly given what bail means. That's not a local issue. That's something we advocate. We actually call our legislators and talk to them. That doesn't get talked about on social media because we're busy doing the work of saying, this is what we need to keep people safe. This is how we help criminals stay off street. This is how we make our community safer and help others become as safe as us. I have 3 more pages on police, so I'm actually going to be quiet now. I am just gonna say, Jay, I cannot wait to be invited. I better get the first invitation to this new building for the ribbon cutting. And I know our department is going to continue to excel and be a model for all the suburban departments. They are gonna be coming to Haddonfield for the training, to Haddonfield for the resources, and to Haddonfield for the example of how to do public safety work. So thank you for the opportunity.
We will go over, I'll first start with, Public Works, as the Commissioner of Streets, then we get that joke? All right, Doug's not here, so we give him credit for it, so,
There's as old as that.
yeah. So, just real quickly, as it applies to Public Works, we're just wrapping up, the spring cleanup, which is probably the busiest time of the year, maybe second moving to leaf collection in the fall. So, we just finished that up on Friday this week, back to normal rotations, which will be primarily mulching and cutting grass, which we do in the springtime here, which does also consume a lot of time there. Big update for Public Works will also be, it was delivered and it's getting upfitted a new leaf truck. We talked about it before, but it's basically a single person vehicle that has a telescopic arm that can be actuated from the driver using it. So we have one person that can be cutting leaves in smaller unit, so it'll be higher volume, or I guess more sweeps, lower volume. So we're going to try to do it in the spring workout. We'll do that in the fall. But I'm actually very excited about that. Haddon Township has one of these, and they've used it for a couple of years. It's very successful. So we're looking forward to it getting here. It's less expensive than the larger assembly for the trucks and the supporting equipment that we've used over time. So that is pretty much it for Public Works, and then I'll go to engineering, which really just summarize that the next major update is going to be the road program for 2025. We're going to be setting up in 2 ways. One will be PSO, which we've done in the past, which is digging down further to the street, pulling up the underlayment, kind of rebuilding that, on top of it, and then an alternative method, which is newer, that has strips of material within the asphalt, which allows it to kind of overcome what's called reflective cracking that takes place. We'll see how the pricing works out between those 2 methods, and if it's more cost beneficial to try that, maybe try that this year and see what kind of results we get. But that will all be taking place in the next probably 2 months here or so, and then all work will be taking place in summertime and into the fall. And that is everything I have, so I'll turn it over to Dave.
Sure. The Commissioner of Revenue, Finance and Administration. Before I get to my report, I'm not going to give a report. I'm just going to point it back. Borough of Haddonfield is run by you. So first, I'm going to thank the Board of Education. Besides Meg and Sheena are here tonight. You got Jess, you have Steph, you have Vice President Lee Cooker, President Jake Burkett. But the borough is run by women. This building is run by women. We have Joanna, Communications, We have Judy Shoemaker, our tax assessor. We have Megan Giordano, our tax collector. We have Deanna Bennett, the media past president of the Clerks Association of Clerks of the state of New Jersey. And we have the boss, Sharon McCollum. We're run by, and it's awesome. I think, having the perspective, it's hard to get a lot of different perspectives involved. But you can absolutely just about anything. And I think it's an important thing for this company. That's about it.
For items listed on the agenda.
Motion to open to the public.
I'll second that.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seibel,
In favor?
Commissioner Bianco Best.
If any members of the public in the room would like to speak, please approach. Sorry, the chief is moving the podium. If you're able to approach, please state your name and address or property reference for Deanna. And each person is limited to 5 minutes. Joanne, is this keeping time? Sorry.
I can.
Okay.
And all that in your dress blacks, congratulations.
Right.
We'll start in the room first, and then we'll go to Zoom if there's no other members of the public that wish to speak. This is just on agenda items. That can be the reports or any of the ordinances or resolutions on the agenda. Annie. Well, the lights are on. And you're.
There you go.
Yeah, said, don't touch the green lights. Yeah, just a couple things. I'm not saying, that these women did deserve awards. But what I am saying is that it's been 7:53 to 9:30, taking up almost 3 hours. And it wasn't on the agenda. And just to have some transparency that this is what we do. I think, I'm not saying they didn't, they should have acknowledgement and recognition. I'm just saying some transparency and appreciated. It's just going on and on, and we have no idea what's going to end. And I know certain people have to leave, you know, because they didn't know, and they need a trip here. Okay, I'd like to ask about those that sit at this table, like Michael, Joanna, Public Works, and all Remington and Vernick. Are they paid extra when they attend the meeting? Police department, are they paid to attend? So if Michael comes, he's not paid anymore, Joanna's not paid like overtime or anymore. Joanna's an hourly employee, but we won't get into personnel, but I can tell you there's no additional fee paid to any professional staff member for sitting here. Like if Public Works comes. Correct. That's part of it. As a supervisory exempt individual. So he doesn't get paid extra. Not to my knowledge. So if Joanna's here and she's keeping like time or something, she's getting paid by the hour. She's the only one that gets paid. I'm not gonna speak, an hourly employee such as her would be paid by the hour. So if there is a 5-hour meeting, that's 5 of the 20 hours budgeted for the week. Okay. If that makes sense. But no one else gets paid. Correct, Sharon, is that correct? That's correct, I think. Okay. Also, there's someone who was overlooked tonight, abandoned. Yeah, made me really upset. There's someone that deserves tremendous recognition for what she has done for historic preservation. And you gave out all those awards, well, certificates, maybe I should say. And you forgot someone who's been doing it for decades, and that's Kim. And if anyone deserved to be recognized,
it was her and she was left out. And I don't understand why you could do such a thing. But I highly object, and I'm personally insulted that someone who contributed so much to historic preservation of Haddonfield was not even recognized. That's all. Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Andrew. Me and my family, as some of you may know, we own business downtown Haddonfield, Borough Hall Pizza Plaza. I didn't want to talk about the report regarding the events and the partnership for Haddonfield. I wanted to say that they've done a tremendous job, and we as a business owners see and know this is the change. When we first opened back in 2018, we really struggled to keep our business open because Haddonfield was more known as like a boutique town and more for lunch, like they had a bistro and it was very busy during lunchtime. But dinner time was very slow. And we would see with 8:30 we would actually close our doors. 8:30, 9 o'clock would be at that time. And I would drive as a family business, me and my family working hard, trying to pay the bills and rent, everything for the first 2 years. And I would drive all the way to Collins and see people waiting in line on those restaurants and see a busy town and see the difference. Then when thank to the mayor, I want to thank for all the hard work that she's done, and I'm very, very grateful. All the events that the town has done, and it is increased, and the beautiful job that Joanne and Mike has done made the Haddonfield change. And a lot of people can see the change in downtown for good, actually, not just for good, for great. Because now not just we're better than every other town around us, and we're busier. And a lot of other businesses from like Philadelphia, from even New York, they're trying to move and have the second, third, or fourth location to move in Haddonfield because it's a great town and very business friendly. I think it's good for everyone, for the residents and everyone to have such a beautiful downtown. And you mentioned everything else, like the social media, how it's changed, the Facebook, like the followings, and everything's being organized better and advertised better. And I just want to thank you, and I'm very grateful. Thank the mic, and thank the join. Thank you very much.
Um, anyone else in the room?
I'm Jason Miller. I live at 303 Avondale Avenue, and I also run a business that's across from the Starbucks. And I'm actually moving to a larger location around the corner, to the house on the corner across from the so I just wanted to thank all you guys for the work you do, because I have clients that literally will come to Haddonfield. They didn't want to come to Philadelphia when they had an office in Philadelphia, but they wanted to come to Haddonfield because they felt safe. Nice town. So I wanted to let you guys know that my business has grown because of the work that all of you guys are doing. So I just wanted to thank you. Thank you very much.
Annie?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot to answer something that's on the agenda. I still have time left over. I just wanted to know, regarding Woodmont, how much are they paying for Bancroft? Because I couldn't find it in the documentation. That's it.
We'll get to that, we'll actually state that.
Yeah, we can answer that.
Okay.
I don't have it, not really answer it now.
No, we'll answer it in about 5 minutes.
Oh.
Because we'll have a discussion.
Oh.
Okay, anyone else in the room before we go to Zoom? Okay, on Zoom, if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand in the chat so Chief and Joanna can acknowledge you. Okay, thank you. Okay, could I have a motion to close to the public on agenda items, please?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezich.
In favor. Next, we have item H, ordinances. These are second readings or proposed to be second readings, so there will be, public hearings on them unless other action is taken. The first we have is ordinance 2025-01. This is amending chapter 48 for various fees, and this is the second reading. Could I have a motion to open to the public on this?
Motion to open the public, ordinance 2025-01.
I'm in opposition to that motion. I'm requesting the tabling of this motion.
And this is the one on youth sport.
Yeah, this is the youth sports. So the way the government works, with an ordinance, you have a first reading and a second reading. First reading is the start of the conversation. The second reading is the hearing to memorialize those conversations. In the past month, we've had various conversations with all sports organizations. It is abundantly clear that this document should not move forward. There's much more work to be done in the recreation space. And I am asking my fellow commissioners to table this resolution, which in effect kills it at the table, because this is the end of this administration. It will have to be reintroduced under a new regime.
Okay, so just for clarification for those in the audience, Commissioner Toya made a motion. There was no second on that, so again, that motion fails. And Dave has made a motion to
Table.
table.
And which will totally kill this.
Okay.
It'll die one day.
First of all, board, just,
Oh, yeah, it's an ordinance.
It's an ordinance, not a
Thank you,
resolution.
sir.
By operation of law, the inclusion of legislative term.
Okay, second.
The motion to table. Is, I think about who's.
I can second that motion.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Sajal,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Best.
Okay, next we have resolution ordinance 2025-03, and that's amendments to the Danforth Development Plan. This is also a second reading. And our redevelopment council is here. Is, there anything that you want me to say before I ask for a motion to the public?
Sure.
And thank you for being with us.
Of
At this late hour.
Wonderful presentation. And not charging this.
So Brad has left the chat.
Commissioners, just real brief for the record, when we were before you, of course, in March, you have done two things. You introduced the ordinance you're about to consider on final adoption, and you referred that ordinance to the planning board, right? Under the redevelopment law, any redevelopment plan and or any amendments to the redevelopment plan have to be reviewed by the planning board, both for consistency with the master plan and for the planning board to make any other findings or recommendations. On April 1st, the planning board did review the amended development plan, which of course has amendments for both Bancroft and Lulworth, recall, and submitted their report back to the commissioners that you all have, dated April 2nd. Two things that are important to note. First, the planning board did find the rental housing amendment to the redevelopment plan as inconsistent with the 1984 master plan. However, when they reviewed that same amendment against the 2019 amended third round housing element fair share plan and your 2025 master plan, the planning board found that the rental housing was not inconsistent with those points. The planning board went one step further in its report to point out that any review of a site plan application with respect to Bancroft property will of course be done against the 2025 master plan and not the 1984 master plan, right? But because of the circumstances, the legislative history had to redo, right, as a result of certain court orders, we were stuck in this middle ground of reviewing it under the old. As you know, and probably recall from the last time we went through this, you are permitted to adopt a redevelopment plan that is inconsistent with your master plan, provided that you include in the plan your reasons for doing that. And the plan is approved, or at least that, change is approved by a vote of majority of the full governing body. In this case, I think it's respectfully fairly safe to say that, a reason to move forward, if you choose to, with these amendments, notwithstanding the inconsistency finding with respect to the 1984 master plan, is, as the planning board said, that plan is no longer in effect. This project will be evaluated against the 2025 master plan, which the planning board found was consistent. So that would be the reason I would suggest that you can approve the amendments to the plan, if you so choose, notwithstanding the inconsistency finding, because in fact there's a consistency finding. There were no other inconsistencies noted by the planning board, and no other recommendations made by the planning board that require any particular part. That's the only one that requires any. So I just wanted to put that on the record, Mayor, before you did open this up for public hearing and certainly for your consideration, just to make sure we're clear and whatever change we have to be ultimately to the development plan to reflect your reasoning tonight. Obviously, we'll make sure it's done in connection with your final adoption. Thank you.
Next motion. Public, comment, 2025-0.
And I will second that.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezic.
Favor. Okay, if there are any members of the public who would like to speak specifically about 2025-03, the amendments to the Bancroft redevelopment plan, now is the time. Okay, seeing none in the room, we'll go to Zoom. If you'd like to make a comment, raise your hand or please type in the chat to Chief if you would like to speak on this ordinance. Okay, can I have a motion to close to the public and adopt ordinance 2025-03 amendments to the Bancroft redevelopment plan?
Motion to close the public, adopt 2025-03. Amendments to redevelopment, or Bancroft redevelopment.
I will second that and note for the record that I am seconding this with the recommendation that we not accept the findings of the planning board and move forward based off of their finding that the new master plan is the most applicable document to judge this against.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezic.
Okay, next we have item I, resolutions under the consent agenda. This includes resolution 48 through 60. May I have a motion to approve the resolutions on the consent agenda?
Madam Mayor, before you take that motion, can you please remove item 60 and table it?
Okay, I will ask for a motion to table resolution 60 from the consent agenda.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezic.
In favor. Okay, so what's left on the resolution, Sharon, if I'm correct, 48 or 59 for consent agenda items?
That's correct.
Okay, could I have a motion, please, for approving the resolutions on the consent agenda, items 48 to 59?
I'll make that motion and point out specifically item 56, applying for a second contract. Especially at work.
I'll second.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezic.
Okay, the last official agenda item is resolution.
I'm sorry, for the record, 60, that's good move, consent agenda, also the table.
Thanks, Al. Okay, so, the last item we have officially on our agenda is item J, it's resolution 61, which is the authorization to approve the redevelopment agreement and purchase and sale agreement for a portion of the property commonly known as Lot 14, Lot 2, on the official tax map of the borough. Before I ask for a motion, Matt, could you just clarify, since the resident already asked the question as to the purchase price?
4.3 million.
4.3 million, Ann? Okay, yeah, of course.
Or approximately 6 acres.
For 6 acres, approximately 6 acres, correct.
Okay, we're going to approve item 61, or resolution.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
in favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor?
Commissioner Bianco Bezich.
Before we open to the public on non-agenda items, I just want to bring up one item to development and borough council. I was given the agreements on Bulwark to sign before I left for vacation last week. And in looking at them, and that was the redevelopment council. I did a Google search in looking through the documents, one of the signatories, which indicated that the signatory was in fact listed on the Haddonfield Development Group website as a part of the prior developer that did not close the deal the first time. And so I did not sign the documents, and I have no intention of signing the documents at this time. If someone else wants to sign it, that's fine, but there was no disclosure made to me in any of our due diligence that the members of the group in this second attempt to purchase had any relationship to, or were a subsidiary or related work to Haddonfield Development, which was not able to finance or come to finish the project, which is what has delayed us for over a year or more in this process. And I don't know, because I didn't know that, I want to give my fellow commissioners that heads up, that I discovered that on the Thursday before getting on a plane to go to Mexico. And they authorized it, it was a 2-1 vote, so arguably the borough should be signing those documents. But I don't know if they knew, and I'm not gonna ask them outside of closed session to say that, but that was the first time that I learned that there was a relationship, namely a named individual signing the new docs, who is in fact still listed on the website of Haddonfield Development Group. Because I didn't understand why, A, that wasn't disclosed, and B, why you would move forward with a developer who, and if there is that relationship or subsidiary entity or legally related entity, that wasn't disclosed to us in good faith or due diligence. So I just want to bring that up in open session, because I haven't signed the documents, I'm getting pressured to sign the documents. And the way, so obviously I couldn't physically sign them once I saw that, but I want to, bring that issue to the forefront, because that was not known to me previously.
Come up to the dais real quick. I guess I just want to start, Sal.
That resolution, sorry, in terms of the procedural process, that resolution is already passed by 2-1 vote. Now, the ministerial act of, as executive officer, the mayor signs contracts on behalf of the borough, and understanding the 2-1 vote, understanding voted against. From
Yeah, I was willing to sign, I'll say this, I was completely willing to sign as the typical, a 2-1 vote, because I'm in the minority, the democracy works as follows, the majority happens. But when I was looking through the document, I saw something that caught my attention. I then Googled that very simple something, and within the Google search, like the top 2 or 3 results, was a connection between the named individual and the prior redeveloper who walked away.
No, understood, and I think I perfectly clear with the record. I guess my point of pause right now, and that would speak, is my concern is, I sense that you'd like to make a motion, perhaps reopen or vacate that earlier resolution. Prior to that happening, I think there should be a discussion in closed session. One of 3 areas of closed session, litigation, contracts, and personnel. This clearly is a contract, and the question to be had to the other elected officials, Commissioner Ford, Commissioner Seidel, I don't believe with all due respect for transparency, that should take place in public. And as the attorney, I'm happy to state that on the record that I'm responsible for that. So I think that's a conversation that if that's something that want to happen, that can happen, the conversation can happen in closed session. Alternatively, again, it was a 2-to-1 vote. Commissioner Seidel, the deputy mayor, can also sign contracts if that's the case. So I'll leave that to the 3 elected if you want to have that conversation. Perhaps closed as well, more appropriate to do so. But that's sort of where we are procedurally at this moment. That resolution, that action is taken.
And I just wanted to be with a public record because I'm getting texts and calls as to why haven't you signed the document yet? And that is not something I felt comfortable putting in a text message to a private.
That's fair. I appreciate that. So,
And although that sounds sensational, I have no idea if that's even material. So I think we need to go into closed session to ask that question. Because I mean, yeah, it sounds like, oh, but it could be mountain and ball. I have no idea.
Thank you.
I wasn't around for the old people.
Yeah.
Alright. So we'll go to close. I will ask that we may take action coming out of closed session. So I'll just make people aware of that.
So we can open it to the public and then, so we'll do a motion up to open to the public on non-agenda items. And then and allow people to speak on non-agenda items. And then we would make a motion to close and go into closed session.
Sure, and I'm just alerting the public that when we come for close, we may take action.
Yep. I appreciate that. Okay. Could I have a motion, right, we have 61, so now we're going to go to item K, public comment. Okay, could I have a motion, Commissioner, to open to public non-agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
in favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezek.
Okay, so this is for any item that your heart desires. 5 minutes, Joanna will keep time. We'll start in the room first, and then we'll go to Zoom, and this is non-agenda items. And as you heard Commissioner Seidel say, we will go into close to discuss Lulworth. So we won't be answering any questions on that until we speak to council. Anything else?
Yeah, it's great. I never thought in all the years that I would have to say something like this. But I do, and I want to report and make you aware of, I believe you pronounce her name, Tier Cole, who's candidate running for commissioner on ethical campaign practice. And since April 11th, she has posted 3 different size ads on websites that I have visited on my computer for the past 12 days. Now, for example, I'm on a website and up pops her picture with info such as call for Haddonfield commissioner and blah, blah, blah. Then you can click open and it takes you to the website, which would like you to donate or get involved in her campaign. I understand that these type of ads are expensive to produce. Honestly, I'm livid that Ms. Cole comes into my home every day via my computer, and all day long, I see ads that pop up with her picture, with a picture of her face. She is stalking and harassing. I find it unprofessional and unethical to do this to residents or voters. I consulted with the computer tech, and he said she is responsible for putting the ads on my computer. We are supposed to have a nonpartisan commission. But Ms. Cole has made it known that she is extremely partisan. And every commissioner is entitled to his or her own political affiliation. She states that her address is 230 Kings Highway East, but that's false. That is the address of the UPS store, just next to Borough Hall. On her campaign website, she states, "I'm committed to serving with transparency, honesty, and accountability." That is also false. She has not been transparent or honest, and she should be held accountable for her unethical behavior. She also states that I believe in leading with integrity. Again, that's false. There's no integrity in what she's doing. I don't know how many residents, taxpayers she's doing this to. And it appears her first loyalty would be to her political agenda and not Haddonfield. And she's shown that we could never trust her as a commissioner, because this behavior is quite shocking, because I feel every time I go on my computer, I'm being harassed. I go home tonight, turn my computer on, and go to several websites, and up pops her face. Now, I am going to pursue this with the New Jersey Election Law Commission. I think that, to see what can be done. And I'm hoping that they're not going to say that it's legal to do this. But although it's not professional and it's not ethical, because I'm not fond of that kind of an explanation. I don't think her doing this, I think it's sneaky. I don't think it's fair to the other two commissioners who are running to be doing this behind the scenes and declaring that she's this transparency and she wants honesty and accountability from everybody else, but she can get away with it. So I apologize. I thought a million years that I would have to say something like this, but I've been putting up with this for 2 weeks now. I don't know. And I just think it's unconscionable. Thank you for your time.
As you said correctly, and the correct body is the New Jersey Election Law Enforcement Commission.
Enforcement.
Yeah.
New Jersey Election Law Enforcement.
Yeah, Eli, I can give you the address afterward. It's not appropriate for this mayor, commissioner of this body to comment. They're the,
I understand.
yeah, they're the.
I don't think it's fair. Anybody,
Yeah.
colleague would be running again. It's just not fair.
Yeah, they're the appropriate body. You should contact the commission. That's who you can file. You can Google Eli, you can find.
Oh, that's.
So if you have some difficulty.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
No, appreciate the clarification. Anyone else in the room on non-agenda items?
Thanks, Sarah. I'm the current coordinator for Haddonfield Skirmish. And I just want to say a quick thank you to Joanna and Sharon and Michael, who has stepped out for the evening, our fire and police departments, and the wonderful people I see in front of me for your continued commitment to not only historic preservation in Haddonfield, but the revitalization of the Amusement Tavern Museum, as well as making history fun for our community. This is all I have to say. So thank you, and see you June 7th. Thank you. I like it. I am close to that.
Anyone else remember before we go?
Get up into that. Last week I sent a message to Michael Marciano, asking if he would send me the bylaws for the budget. And Michael responded that I would need to submit an over request of that. And so my question to the solicitors, why on earth should a resident have to submit an Oprah request to get such an innocuous document? That is the bylaws of the partnership act.
We did say we don't have to be your email was a little bit more inclusive about it, but you also had some comments or summary of your observation from the partnership. Some of the partnership indicated they were. I wasn't there, I'm not party to it, certain partnership and no discretion, they choose to do that, they can do that. So that may take care of your concern. I won't characterize innocuous or not innocuous, whether a document is innocuous, inflammatory, or whatever, it may be benign, it may be malignant. I mean, but whatever the nature of the document is, if it's a government document, it's subject to the Public Records Act request, all documents by their nature of law. So, answer your large question of why it's a government document, it's kept, it's policy of the state of New Jersey, not merely this administration, but the state of New Jersey. Any request for government documents is treated under the Public Records Act request, the law of the state of New Jersey. Whether it's characterized as innocuous, benign, malignant, whatever, it's the law of Harrisonburg applies to all of us.
Any document.
You government document. There's no footnote in Oprah that says if it's not important or it's benign.
Oh, sure.
Any government.
Okay.
I apologize.
No.
Your email.
That's all right. I mean, it just seems extreme, doesn't it? That something as I say, non-public, as the bylaws for organization, for partnership. Firstly, ought to be posted on the website. And I think I had a discussion during one of their meetings in October of 2023, and I thought it was agreed at that time. But we shouldn't have to go through that kind of proceeding to get something. So, and I don't have a problem with being told that that's the case, and the clerk saying this will put it. Yes. But then I want to talk about bananas.
Go on.
Bananas.
No.
I shop at the Acme and I shop at Wegmans, and for as long as I can remember, the price of bananas at Wegmans has been 49 cents. And at the Acme 69 cents. So guess where I buy my bananas? Well, I was at Wegmans on Saturday, and the price is now 53 cents, which is a 4-cent increase, but that's 8% increase in the cost of bananas. A friend of mine happens to work for a company that imports bananas from Ecuador, which is the biggest supplier of bananas to the United States, and has told me that it's a direct result, not of inflation, but of the tariff that was imposed across the board. Previously, there was no tariff on bananas. Now there's a 10% tariff on bananas. So we're all paying, not just for bananas, but for lots of other increases of, in the case of bananas, 8%, because of this ridiculous action that's been taken at the federal level. So what's that got to do with Haddonfield? Well, one of the other actions that was taken recently at the federal level was to cut the legs from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. And Eric Zeno wrote about that in the current issue of Haddonfield today. The Institute of Museum and Library Services provides funding to state libraries around the country. And state libraries provide services and programs and training and all those kinds of things to community libraries, including the Library of Haddonfield, Public Library of Haddonfield. And so in the article he wrote here, Eric talks about the kinds of things that are likely to be cut from the services of the Haddonfield Public Library as a result of this federal agency being attacked with a chainsaw.
David, the 5 minutes are up, so you know.
So my question to you, Frank, and to you, Ed, is, since one of you will be mayor and the representative on the library board, what are you going to do about it?
I would encourage them to spend their money wisely. One of those trees was stalked within this time period, and we had a discussion with them saying that if they could wait, like most other people in places in town, we'll have the stalk removed, put it on their contract with this, they'll be paid for by the borough of Haddonfield. And the best of my knowledge, he left the kind of doing that himself. Library funds. So for me, I would say, you know, the federal government and their decision is what it is. At some point, there will be a reckoning, might be like a readjustment, but that's several layers away from where we are in the local government. I would say that, you know, realizing that's going to have an impact for the next several years, probably the state funds. But a lot of people don't understand state funds come from the federal dollars. Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand. And my line of work, I see that every single day. I mean, we do a lot of work for MTA and DOT and you name it. That's like, yeah, it's by way of contracts. That is some of our major customers. So at some point, you take a look at these things and say, we're going to cut funds, we're going to compromise, we're going to, you know, not spend money, $1,000 to take down a tree, if you can wait a little bit longer and have it perfectly cared. Those are the kind of actions I would encourage. And then outside of that, I would say, as a community, what can we do to raise funds and help augment the past where maybe it's coming from the state, coming from the feds, and we think that's not going to happen again, and trying to get creative with ways to bridge the gap. And I think that people in Haddonfield are very giving people. If there's a direct relationship of the money they give, where exactly that money's going, I think people are more inclined to give. If it goes into a general fund where it would be used the best of our ability to kind of, you know, whatever, bridge gaps or whatever the case may be, I think more or less. So that's what I would do, is encourage, one, fundraising, two, where it makes sense to cut costs, cut costs.
Right, yes, it's right. I think Colleen said it best when she was giving out proclamations, and she was talking about, not proclamations, when you were lauding, Michael McConaughey. And this is gonna tie together with the first piece. We set an agenda, we set a vision, we hire professionals to execute. Eric Zeno is a professional library science. I am sure he is well versed in the needs of the library, as Frank would have said. One of the things I do know about where these cuts go is interlibrary loans. So it kind of goes to your first piece. Is it impossible to find the bylaws? I have no idea. I've never looked. Is it easier to go to our website and expect them to be there? I completely agree with you. It doesn't mean they're not accessible. It just means that in lieu of your effort to find it, you can put the effort into request it. It's the same thing with the library. For this very reason, if they've decided to encourage people to find information on their own, it could be something to chew on, a program that the Maple Kid runs for seniors to learn how to do things for themselves. Or it's easy to just walk in the library and say, can you get that for me? The professional that we hire, encourage, and inspire can make that decision and ask for resources.
From the, ask for resources from the borough.
From the borough, from the state, as you said, this was a federal policy that trickles down. They could fundraise on their own, as Frank had said. They are professionals who know their business better than I could possibly even want to. So I will inspire any of you to get.
Well, of course, and they may come to the borough and so we need a taxi.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room? Okay, on Zoom, is there anyone, I see Sarah?
Yeah, she's hanging tough. Where'd she go?
Yeah.
Okay,
They hold on.
I am good.
Thank you. All right, could I have a motion to close to the public and open to the press?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bennett.
In favor. Okay. Joan, the last item.
I'll wait till after executive.
Okay.
So we're not allowed to ask any questions about anything related to homework?
I did, I know.
Okay, so the question I have is, in, I guess, the time when I guess we're going back to 2022, when the first agreement was signed with the Haddonfield Development Group, was there a realtor managing that transaction at that time, or was that only afterwards, the latest over?
It was the same realtor.
Is it the same realtor? Okay, so then I guess my question is, when in July 2024, Michael Rigolizzo wrote to Mr. Burns and said, I was informed you're charged with bringing proposals to the town regarding the renovation and redevelopment of Lowworth Hall. It is my understanding that the previously named redevelopment of this project has decided to abandon their development plans for this project. Did Mr. Burns report any of that to you guys? If he was a realtor both times, he was talking to the same guy from two different development groups?
I think we need to have a conversation.
Okay.
I understand you guys' question.
Sure. Just wanted to find out, because that is the name of the guy who's associated with both of those.
Your question.
Okay, I'll wait to get my answer after closing.
I'm not promising you an answer.
I mean, I would hope there would be.
But I'm not promising.
All right, may I have a motion to enter into a closed session for the discussion of contracts and contracts?
We forgot to accept that. Yes, I'll say. I mean, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bennett.
In favor.
You do a dance? I don't.
Fair.
Yeah.
You guys,
I'm fine.
it's okay.
I'm looking. Any questions on that?
So can I get an answer to my previous question? Which I'd be happy to repeat, which was, did Mr. Burns, the realtor, the real estate agent, let any of you know that Michael Rigolizzo, who's from Haddonfield Development Group and also from Trinity Investment Holdings, when Rigolizzo wrote to Burns on July 25th, 2024, to ask if, to state, it is my understanding that the previously named redeveloper for this project has decided to abandon their development plans for this project. Did he present any of this information to you as a realtor? Who you said handled both the previous transaction and this one, and then I would therefore hope knew that Mr. Rigolizzo was the guy who was in contact with him for both projects.
I'm looking at the email right now.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, so my answer is, the email I received in July 2024, on July 25th. It simply says, Colleen, Frank, and Sharon, please see the below proposal for Loward. Let me know if you have any questions. And then you read verbatim what the email was.
Right.
That is the extent of the communications I have as to any, anything beyond what was in the RFP or whatever we want to call it, the proposal submitted.
Okay, so Mr. Burns then presented this to you without any commentary that this person was involved in both of these groups, one of which had previously walked away, was now attempting to rebid the same job with a different pitch?
Speaking for myself, that's.
Sure. Did you guys know anything about that? Did you hear anything about that from Mr. Burns?
So I going off of history here, discussion, I guess he was named as a first, as, I guess, a consultant on the first.
He's listed on their website as the Trinity Investment Holdings CEO is Michael Rigolizzo, who is also listed as the Senior Historical Restoration Expert with Haddonfield Redevelopment Group. So that's how Haddonfield Redevelopment Group is him. And I would imagine you guys would have had some contact with him at some point previously, right? When you're figuring out if you're going to go with the person who's going to restore this historic property.
I don't think we had any conversations with him.
Not with him, when we were talking to Haddonfield Development Group, no.
Okay, so I guess so your realtor did not present to you that this person's involved in both projects?
I'm not sure if I can't answer if he was involved in these projects.
But you just said it was the same listing agent for both groups, both times John bid, right?
Correct.
And Rigolizzo was involved in both projects because he is the Senior Historical Restoration Expert with Haddonfield Redevelopment Group, even though his name and photo have been scrubbed from their website, it still comes up in the pen tag.
So I never talked to him on the first project.
Okay, how did you guys, what was the criteria for awarding the first project to him? You didn't have any conversation about who's going to handle the historic restoration of a historic building?
I didn't have any conversations with him.
Okay.
We had conference calls with the
Principals.
the principals of HDT.
Okay.
The owners,
Yeah.
which Michael is not.
Right, he's not one of the owners, but he is still somebody who would have had the information, much less the gall to write a message and say, it's my understanding that previously named redeveloper of the project has decided to abandon it, and then present himself to you as an option. And your realtor didn't mention any of that to you. You guys didn't know anything about that.
I can't speak to their relationships.
I'm not talking about their relationship. I'm talking about your relationship with your realtor who presented the same person who had just been a part of the group that walked away from the deal and then was inquiring about picking up with his inside information that group walked away from the deal.
So he did not mention that name to us. Or
Okay.
I should say us, to me.
He didn't mention the name to you. Dave, you weren't involved in Colleen. You said he didn't say anything to you other than he just presented this. Okay.
The email was all I got.
Okay.
And
So
there was no mention of there being any relationship or pre-existing involvement.
gotcha. So I guess the question is that significant enough that you guys want to proceed with the same project if this guy is part of both of those bids? Or do you have thoughts now, having had the opportunity to confer about handing a project like this over to somebody who's part of the group that walked away from it and then use that insider information to leverage a second bid on the same thing?
I think it goes back to, I don't know if we can.
The second half of that's presumptuous, right? So I think, yeah, you can't comment on that, right? That's.
He worked for both things, and the opening paragraph is, it is my understanding that the previously named redeveloper for this project has decided to abandon the development plan.
Yeah, because that redeveloper filed a public letter that anybody,
He was
and
there.
everybody can and did see, saying that they were terminating the original deal.
Sure, but he's part of that group, so even if that letter.
That's a presumption.
It's a presumption that the senior historic development consultant for that group would not know that he wasn't gonna get paid because.
He's not an owner of that company.
He's not the owner, but he's the person who was supposed to be in charge of the historic redevelopment. He was the senior consultant for.
They had
historic
8 people
redevelopment.
listed as professionals.
Okay, but I'm just saying, this is a guy who is that, he's on that company, he's ostensibly has a material interest in the project.
There's another assumption.
How else would he get paid if he's not working in that capacity?
Again, that's not for us.
Okay,
You're out.
so what I'm trying to ask you,
Answer payroll questions that we can
Yeah.
answer. They had them.
I don't think I'm asking payroll questions, I'm just.
You were asking that.
I did ask this.
I had the floor, but so, you know, they had to provide their financial interest, the first,
Okay,
and I don't know if we can comment to that or not.
Yeah, it's a public document. It's been out for 3 years.
Yeah,
Michael is not an owner, was not an owner of Haddonfield Development Group.
okay,
Nor is any owner of Haddonfield Development Group an owner of Trinity Investment, which is also a public document.
okay. So do you have opinions now that this information is out there? That does this in the end now quantify, or is this a conflict of interest? Is this something that you think is sufficient to nullify this contract or go in a different direction now that you do know this information?
I don't think, I don't see anything that shows the conflict of interest.
Oh, okay, so it's not a conflict of interest, but this guy was part of the group previously that walked away from the project and then is attempting to rebid the project himself. Do you feel like that makes it, are you securing that person carrying forward this work?
So there was a 1.5 to 2 years of working with Haddonfield Development Group on the next steps of the project. I can't speak to, you know, when they made an offer, they had a team they're gonna work with. I can't speak to whether he was still with that team or not still with that team, or, you know, if they part of the company or not. I can't speak to that.
Okay, but I'm asking about it now, because you guys are using this information to make your decisions now. And Colleen said she felt like it was enough of a thing to hang up her vote, or sorry, rather than hang up her signature on the process. Do you both now, having been informed all of this stuff, still feel like you should carry forward with the agreement?
Yes.
Okay. Dave, I have some other questions. In some of the conversations with, I guess, other people who bid on this, there was communication with a guy named Tom, excuse me for not getting his last name correct, Tom McTaggart, who said that he was somebody who bid on this. And then in communication with him, you had said that you had created your own 5-point rubric for the deliberation process about which of the bids that you wanted to back and then choosing this.
That's right, I publicly disclosed the rubric.
I'm sorry?
I publicly disclosed the rubric.
But was that rubric the same that Colleen and Frank were working with?
No, it's my deliberate process.
Okay, so is that something that, is there anything in the RFP, RFQ that everybody had to use the same criteria for judging whether the project should go forward or not?
No, I can not like the color of a person's shirt and make a decision based on that. So that's my deliberative process, is to create a rubric that levels it for me.
Okay,
But I do not have to impose that on my fellow commissioners.
Okay.
They have every right to choose it however they want.
Okay, so is there anything in RFP, RFQ that says that decision making has to be, like, I don't know, consistently understood process by everybody, but you're all free to just make the case on whatever basis you want?
That's correct.
For this, okay.
I mean, it's my understanding.
Well, yeah, let's hold on. Very broad.
Yeah, that's my, right.
You're talking about the RFP process, you're also talking about RFQs, because it's a little bit professional, so apply here.
So it's an RFP, forgive me.
No, that's okay. Just clarify, this is a redevelopment, so it's a completely different set of criteria. And I don't think there should be any mistake that we're not talking about repaving a road, where you've got specs that are done by an engineer that have to meet those specs. As some of the submissions have come in, there's different proposals. It could be a single family home, it could be a development, it could be an educational center. So to answer your question, which has a lot of assumptions in it, the RFP was part of the redevelopment process. The individual criteria that the individual commissioners in terms of they want to form a rubric, and they categorize it. There's other financial criteria that they might evaluate. It's not as defined as a public roadway project, 200 linear feet, X base, et cetera, et cetera. So
okay,
and that's a great point, because in my public post of the 2 rubrics that I posted on the same day, my rubric to evaluate Walworth and my rubric to evaluate the Bancroft redevelopment, I said the variety of the proposals in the Walworth made me have to do a much more extensive rubric than the one I used for the other evaluation. And again,
yes, I think the answer back to answer your question, the answer is no, there's no one set criteria.
Anybody could pick whatever they want to use for ranking them.
I mean, in the context of this particular redevelopment, I mean, we're talking about a 150-some-year-old house, and what are you going to do with it? I mean, so again, there's a lot of.
And of course, I'm being a little facetious about college, sure.
Yeah,
I don't think that's a good example.
In the contract, it's going to be total cost of ownership over, in my case, 30 years. It's gonna be first pass yield with, SHPO and a sort of approval authority. And,
What was that, I'm sorry, first pass?
First pass yield of getting the approval through SHPO or any other state agency. And, the financial wherewithal, proven track record of a contractor's ability.
Okay,
And that's probably pretty consistent with anyone who's evaluating any project, and there's probably puts and takes of what they're using, but it's all pretty consistent.
okay, so when you say financial wherewithal, proven track record of development to do this, I think one of the other things that came out about, Mr. Ridolizzo is that he's walked away from other projects in town previously. He has a number of, default judgments entered against him in courts in 3 or 4 counties in New Jersey, including for, not getting work done as a builder. So did any of that come to light in either the presentation of his pitch from Mr. Burns or your own research or your own estimation about financial wherewithal when you consider this guy to do this job?
The financial came from, the financial backing that he provided as part of the RFP and his track record of, other properties he's done, similar in scope of this.
And did you feel like his financial wherewithal versus the other bidders was more intact or more desirable, or?
I would say his was the most detailed, response to the RFP.
Okay, but did you know that he had a number of judgments entered against him for incomplete work, but he walked away from a project on Hinchman Ave in this town, some other stuff like that? I mean, if you just look this guy's name up in the court record, you'll find a lot of stuff.
I think the one on Hitchman had a sign on that said HBG.
Right, which he was the senior historic consultant for.
We don't know, I mean, the presumptions have not been confirmed by you.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so again, I feel like we're talking in circles. This guy was associated with.
Oh, I'll agree with that.
Yeah, this guy's associated with a group who walked away from the previous bid, and then you guys think he has both the best rubric and the most financial resilience to go ahead with this project.
Yeah.
I
The
don't,
first
I
half
think
of
we're
that
done,
is
yeah,
also-
I think they've
I'm
answered.
asking if I can confirm what I've heard correctly, if that's the case.
But you're not.
It's not.
Is that not the case?
No, it's not the case that that's what your question is.
No, I'm saying. It's part of the, I'm saying you guys made this decision, this was the best of 4 bids. But then when I asked what are the reasons for the decision, you said that it's because you developed your own rubric and he satisfied the conditions of the other developers. You say he had the most financial wherewithal. She says she has concerns because he's associated with the previous group that walked away from it. So I'm just trying to put it all together to try to understand how this decision was arrived at, because yes, we now are clear that you all can use whatever reasons you want to decide on the thing. But now that we have all this information out there, you guys are saying, let's still go ahead.
So Haddonfield Development says 100% owned by 2 people, none of which is Mike Ridolizzo. I don't know their reasons for walking away from it.
Okay, but you guys
It has
know.
no correlation.
I think
to Trinity.
Well, that's debatable, but that's okay. But you guys, you've answered the question. You're still gonna go ahead with this agreement. And you're gonna approve it. Colleen, are you still?
yeah.
Are you still not gonna sign it or?
Correct.
Okay.
You're not gonna sign. I'm not gonna sign.
Okay.
David's authorized to sign.
Okay, Colleen, I guess the last question I have in the interest of time, I just want to find out, do you have thoughts on this as we wrap this up? That you haven't maybe made clear previous to this or at all? Like, what gave you pause if you made your decision and said you don't feel like you're gonna sign this, you don't want to execute it?
Well, I mean, my background's in real estate law, so it makes me extremely uncomfortable to have not been told a fact that I think is I'll say more than relevant to the consideration of proposals, given that we have been represented by a broker. And it wasn't an RFP process in actuality in the same way that I would handle other redevelopment projects. We had a broker bring us 2 proposals in succession from what now appears to be, based on what I saw before I left for Mexico, someone who has been or is involved with or otherwise related to the former that did not get a deal done, who terminated and walked away, and the current who was just voted on. And I just literally got off a plane this very weekend, so like, I simply raised it this evening because I was uncomfortable responding to questions from the public or from our broker about why the documents are not signed. Given that before I got on the plane, I learned a piece of information I did not know before. And it doesn't change my vote because I voted no on the basis of being frustrated by the last go round with HDG and the way that materialized into nothing and the condition that Woolworth is sitting in today. And my preference would be to avoid a repeat of that situation because I live here and I care very much about that building.
Is Rigoletto a signatory on the document?
Rigoletto is the Trinity Investments.
He's the
Yeah.
CEO of Trinity.
So this, so what I will clarify, I had no rubric, I had no evaluation overall of the four proposals. I was not going to vote in favor of the development by anyone.
Right.
So when the documents were put in front of me, the signatory was the name Michael Rigoletto. I always Google lots about the documents I sign, and I read them in their entirety. And so I told Deanna I was not going to sign because I wanted to do further homework and raise the issue with my fellow commissioners before anyone else, that I was not aware there was a potential or actual relationship, or could have been, between HPG and Trinity. And I wanted both of them to know before anyone else that that is what I discovered for myself.
But did we sign the document before the election?
I'll be signing the document tomorrow.
So the defaults don't concern you? His business dealings prior, that Matt just brought up don't concern you?
I had no idea
The context of any of those things.
Okay, I have an unrelated question, but also about Bangkok. The 6 acres that's listed here, wasn't it 7 before with the 98?
No, that was a mistake in retrospect.
It was?
Yes.
Was it really?
Yes.
Oh my god. Okay, so 6 acres is the developable land.
It was never said.
Okay.
These guys, I tell you.
Can I just ask one last detailed question about the conditional redevelopment agreement previously? That was established in
Which property?
Yeah, Westfield, sorry. That was established in 2022, correct, that agreement? When did HDG withdraw from that?
July, or no, 2024.
Yeah.
I mean, I can find it because we have a copy of it. It's a part of the document.
We definitely approved the minutes tonight.
Sure.
Was it July? It was over the summer? June or July of 2024. I'll get you the exact date.
What was the time period for reasonable review, due diligence or anything?
It was within the contractual, within the contractual time frame.
Do we know what the contract?
No.
It was appropriate.
But one of the issues that
Well, the
was
purchase
coming
order.
up was that they were not on track to complete restoration, or I'll scratch that word. We had made conditions of that the building was to be maintained in while the building was under diligence. So that, again, whether for target, and in 2023, I had our department head walk through the building and observe the exterior. Because in addition to the lights, towers, and fencing, I wanted to try to, and the stained glass protection, I wanted to try to do more. And so in the minutes I just looked at, Sharon and I discussed in May or June with Matt and everyone, and these minutes were approved, so I'm not talking out of school. The reality that, you know, the maintenance and prevention of further decay of the building. And if that wasn't getting done, that was more of a concern to me than any financial package, because it's only gonna grow in cost if it continues to deteriorate, whether it's our cost or the developer's cost. And I continuously brought that up, and in July, after Sharon and I acknowledging on the record, they had failed to meet the deadlines agreed upon, they finally terminated.
And that's July 2020,
July 11th, 2024.
July 11, 2020. Okay, thank you. And then again, the broker process began after that, but there wasn't a formal RFP in this instance?
No, we just reposted the documents to the website.
Okay, so was there a deadline for when?
Yeah, we changed dates and stuff.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
I'm sorry, but
There
but
was.
the documents largely stayed the same. I apologize.
Okay, so the documents largely stayed the same, it wasn't a formal RFP, it was a broker-led process. Well, what was the deadline for receiving the new bids of the thing?
I would have to pull it out.
Yeah.
We'll have to go
Over
to-
the,
Okay.
RFP.
I guess that's all I've got. I'm just really, wanted to figure out how we got to this point. But now, since if the things are signed, the deliberations concluded, we should be able to read all of the pitches now, right? Because they were being withheld from Oprah because of concerns about the deliberative process.
Well, they weren't signed.
What's the document?
I understand that. I'm just saying that now, once they're signed, I should be able to walk in there and get a look at every bid that everybody put in under the thing and review them, right?
Yeah.
I would agree, you should have. I would agree, I should have too. It didn't happen that way, so. No, I get it, but, that's where the base of my question is, like, when you guys said, we're gonna go with this Trinity Investment Holdings Group, I go and look them up, and I can't really find too much on them, because there's a number of things called that. And then I went to try to find out if I could get more information from the borough clerk, and I was told, you can't, because they have not signed anything, so. I've been waiting as long as everybody else has since March 24th to find out about who these people are. And then somebody else hands me a bunch of Oprah documents or communication that tells me some more about it. So, and then Colleen says it's enough to make her not want to sign the thing, and you guys are ready to go ahead with it. So I can't wait to read what everybody else submitted so that I can put the whole thing together. Appreciate you guys coming through the closed session and talking about it.
Frank, can I just ask you a couple things? April 8th, 2024, closed session minutes. You actually agreed on that night to pursue Woodmont. That was 4 weeks before the May 13th vote, when you voted no?
Yeah.
Did you notify either Colleen or Kevin that you changed your mind?
No,
In that period of time before you actually made the no vote on May 13th?
no, I spent that time going to constituents, as many as I could talk to get feedback from people.
In
and-
April of last year?
What's that?
In April of last year?
Yeah.
Okay, weren't those coffee things in November?
No, I mean, I'm talking like unofficial, I mean, you gotta have 500 residents in my phone.
Okay.
So, texts, talking to people, walking around the dock, getting feedback from people, whatever the case may be. I could not find one person.
And so do you think that you could have notified either Colleen or Kevin of your change of heart on that prior to your vote?
Yeah, I could have.
Okay. Can you speak to why you did it?
I think I spent the time doing a lot of soul searching about, was I doing something, convenient, or was I doing something that I thought was right, given people that I know in town, their feedback to me. And it came down to, I think, the night out where I cast my vote accordingly.
Can anybody up there answer how much it cost the borough to defend the lawsuit that the citizens subsequently brought? I just ballpark it.
I'm sure.
Right now.
I have no idea.
Now,
See if I.
come on.
I haven't seen the bill specifically.
You had the deposition.
You gotta figure it's Sal, it's Matt, it's, other professionals, like our planner, who had to come back multiple times. with Matt and Sal.
Can we ask for that information, Oprah? We should get the correct language all together.
Yeah, because none of
We have to create a report.
What was that?
So we'd have to create a report and pull the information together.
I guess if you don't mind me asking, where's the correlation?
Correlation of what?
Like, what is the correlation? I mean,
Well, if you voted yes, you have lost. If you voted yes on May 13th,
I think
and the citizens would
that's
probably
it. It's quite a leap. I think the nature of the lawsuit was Kevin's residency, not whether Frank was residency or whether Frank voted yes or no the wrong way.
it would carry two of them. Would have carried without.
I was never named in the lawsuit. Kevin was,
I know.
Kevin was the person named in the lawsuit. So I think your beef is with Kevin, you should give him a call and ask why he voted and then decided to move from town. That's a better question, correct?
I can call Kevin.
Please do.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
We have a motion to adjourn?
Not even any diner.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Oh, yeah, second.
They're gonna be a while. I think they're getting the shirt.